Technology, history, and America's godly heritage. We talk about anything that affects your faith, your family, or your freedom. So don't go anywhere, because Point of View starts right now.
Across America, live, this is Point of View. And now, Kerby Anderson.
Thank you for joining me. It is our Truth Team Week, and we are on the Thursday edition of that. And let me just mention, just a few minutes, we're going to have Chelsey Youman in with us. And, of course, you have heard her many times on the Millennial Roundtable. Have her here on a Thursday instead, because not only does she have an opportunity to join us as a millennial, she is, of course, a lawyer and also really kind of a public policy expert. And one of the things we'll be talking with her about is all these religious liberty cases, some before the Supreme Court, but we're also looking down upstream a little bit, if you will, because those which are going downstream come from those upstream, and there's at least 6 cases we know having to do with religious liberty that might be in the courts. So we're going to get into that conversation. A little bit later in the next hour, we'll have Chuck Bentley with us of Crown Financial, the organization started originally by Larry Burkett. We'll be talking about his piece on how to pass the true money test. And then in the third hour, even though your local station might not be able to carry that, you could certainly continue to listen online or watch us on YouTube live, and that will be Lee Strobel of the Case for Christ. And, of course, all through this week we have Brad Fisk. And, Brad, it's interesting. Over the last couple of days, we've surfaced this issue of religious liberty. So the last moment, we decided to bring Chelsey in here, and we'll talk to her in just a minute, because this issue of religious liberty has just taken off, hasn't it?
It really has, and I think it's growing in importance exponentially. And we see what's happening in other countries and shake our heads, just can't believe the atrocities and what's going on, and double standards galore. And yes, you're right. I really believe that's true, that religious liberty seems to be bubbling to the top of many, many other issues. And you know what? If we blink long enough and hard enough and that many times, we could start losing some of the things we take for granted right now. And
I might just mention that we will, of course, as we always do, be broadcasting as those decisions come down.
Yes.
The ones we've talked about are controversial enough. I don't think that they will be announced until the last week in June. Because what happens, Brad, sometimes is that they drop these controversial cases off, and then they all go to Europe to go and teach. And so, and they're out of the country when the implications of whether it's Obamacare or the issue of same-sex marriage or whatever it might be gets dropped on our laps. And because of these cases, I suspect that may be the case. And then we're going to be looking in just a few minutes some others that are certainly prayer targets, because right now the Supreme Court is deciding whether or not they'll consider those cases. Right. Only about 80 cases a year go to the Supreme Court, and these are out of tens of thousands of cases. So it is unlikely that the court will take many of these cases, except for the fact that each one of them, in one way or another, deals with a very fundamental issue of religious liberty. That's kind of become the big issue before the Supreme Court. So we'll get a chance to get an update on that. But again, if you're just joining us, this is a week in which we call it Truth Team Week, because we talk about Truth Team 360. And the 360 relates in a number of ways. First of all, 360, we're kind of covering your back. We're looking at all these different issues from 360 degrees. But also, we also challenge you to consider joining the Truth Team. And for as little as $1 a day, $30 a month, $360 a year, you can be one of those individuals who gives to us on a regular basis. And because we have monthly bills, it's always good to have monthly donors.
It is indeed. And we're excited. Let me share really quick. There's a couple different ways you can get involved with Truth Team Week financially. And we have a thank you gift, a welcome gift, if you might say, from Faith Comes by Hearing. It's a Bible stick, and it's got the entire New Testament preloaded. This isn't something that you can put on and take off. It's not like a thumb drive. It's actually an MP3 player, and it's a music, sound effects, dramatized, the ESV version. And what I really am glad for, word for word. It's not a paraphrase. It's actually word for word the ESV standard version of the Bible. And so this is yours as a free gift for your gift of $1 or more a day, and that's $360 for the year or more, and that Bible stick is going to be a gift from us to you. By the way, you cannot buy these in retail stores. It's not a retail product. Faith Comes by Hearing is a ministry, the world's largest, by the way, ministry doing audio Bibles in a variety of different forms, and this is one of them. So I would really encourage 3 of you as we come to the break here in just a few minutes to get to the phone. Could we hear from you today? Could you join the Truth Team at $1 a day or more? What's stopping you from getting this wonderful gift? You can maybe pass it on to that college student or someone else to listen to, maybe the elderly. It's great for people who can't read real well anymore. So anyway, here's the phone number, 800-347-5151. That's toll free, 800-347-5151. And also, if you want to give more, there's some other thank you gifts.
Well, they certainly.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
I really appreciate what you guys do. I love the program, and it's so refreshing to have this type of ministry on the air. And, you know, you pray that others would tune in and really get educated from a spiritual perspective about a biblical worldview. I mean, I really appreciate it.
You guys do an amazing job. You guys always are very encouraging, and no matter what, I just wanted to thank you guys.
I just wanted to commend you for the excellent guests that you've had on your program. I think all Americans need to hear these things, and I hear you say that only 1% of listeners support your program, and I just want to encourage people out there. They need to support your program because our country needs to hear these messages.
I just want to say that I love your show. I listen to it every day because I get off just in time enough to hear it, and just keep up the good work.
Just wanted to know how much I appreciate your program. I've been listening to it for several years, and thank you so much for the positions you take. Keep up the good work.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
One of the callers there mentioned something, Brad, that we haven't really talked about, and that is when we look at the audience that we have and compare it to the number of people that have ever given to Point of View, it's about 1%.
Isn't that amazing? So there's room for growth. There's room for you at the table.
Yes. And we maybe want to talk to the other 99%.
Oh, let's do.
And in particular, this particular station that we're broadcasting on right now, a lot of the individuals maybe are hearing this program for the first time. So they can't say, hey, I'm not 1%, I'm not 99%. I just haven't really had a chance until the last couple of weeks to hear your program. But I appreciate what you're doing. And for as little as $1 a day, $30 a month, that's one giving level. You also talked about some others, which I'll mention real quickly. We have the Anniversary Club, $45 a month. Why $45? Well, Point of View's been on for more than 45 years, right. So that's something we've done. And we make these booklets available to individuals that can be read in under 10 minutes, along with the Bible stick. And then I found a few people that said, you know, I probably could give you $100 a month. I couldn't write you a check for $1,200, but I could give you $100 a month, and it would end up being $1,200. And if you do that, we also add the Amazon Echo Dot.
Oh, so, that's cool.
So lots of great resources. And if you find yourself saying, well, he went through that fairly quickly, you can go to the website, pointofview.net, click on that button that says Join Now, and we'll show you what each one of those involved. And certainly, most importantly, as we go to a break right now, Brad, we have some people waiting by the phones.
We do. And the phone number to put them to work, okay, is 800-347-5151. Hey, you've been thinking and praying about it all week long. I know some of you have. You know what? This would be a great time to step up. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. And again, that web address.
Again, pointofview.net. We'd love to hear from you. And when we come back, Chelsey Youman will be with us, First Liberty. We'll be talking about religious liberty. So make your call now. We'll be right back.
This is Viewpoints with Kerby Anderson.
The Constitution mandates a survey of Americans every decade, and the Commerce Secretary has discretion over the questions that census takers must ask. In most administrations, that would be the end of it. But Donald Trump is the president, and just about everything that is proposed in his administration is controversial. The Justice Department asked census officials to include a question about citizenship so they can better enforce the Voting Rights Act. Including such a question was so controversial that a number of states have filed suit against the Trump administration. Some commentators have suggested that the liberal overreaction to the question is a good reason why we should push for it. The attorneys generals argue that asking this question might undercount people in blue states and affect congressional representation. Actually, there are lots of places in red states with illegal immigrants. Here are just a few towns where the percentage of undocumented immigrants exceeds 10%. McAllen, Texas, Yuma, Arizona, Gainesville, Georgia. Critics also fear that illegal immigrants will not fill out the U.S. Census forms. That has not been the response with the long-form census that already asked the question about citizenship. On the other hand, it has been a problem getting illegal immigrants to fill out the short form, even with massive outreach programs. Several other countries, from Australia to the United Kingdom, do include a citizenship question on their surveys. The United States used to ask the question on the short form until the 1960s and has continued to ask about citizenship on the long form. The Justice Department said it needs more data for the location of voters for a fair enforcement of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. I think that is reason enough to include the question. I'm Kerby Anderson, and that's my point of view.
For more information about issues covered on Viewpoints, visit pointofview.net. Pointofview.net. Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Hello, I'm O.S. Hawkins, and what a privilege it is to say these few brief words about how much I love Kerby Anderson and how much I respect the ministry of Point of View. You know, in a world we're living in, when their culture is collapsing and crumbling all around us, we see some folks rushing out to condemn the culture. They just maybe beat their Bibles a little harder and yell a little louder, while others compromise the culture and some even condone it. But what I love about Point of View is it confronts our culture every day as Kerby speaks the truth and speaks it in love. So I want to encourage you to support Point of View with your gifts. You know, we should never resist a generous impulse. And as you're listening to Point of View and you get an impulse to support that program and give to that program, the devil wouldn't put that in your heart. God did. So never resist a generous impulse. And join us in supporting a Point of View and thanking God for the gift He's given all of us in Kerby Anderson, who leads with integrity and excellence.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
O.S. Hawkins, who, of course, is the head of Guidestone Financial and was the pastor at First Baptist Church in Dallas, among other churches that he has been speaking at. And I say that he is such a great communicator. Almost every time I've heard O.S. Hawkins, I write down all his notes and have really appreciated his sermons and all the rest. So he's a good friend. And, of course, has produced all these books that have done very well as well. The James Code and the Jesus Code and the Joshua Code, and we'll go on and on. So anyway, O.S. Hawkins, some kind words there.
It was very nice.
And Brad Fisk in studio with us. We're in the midst of Truth Team 360.
We are
indeed.
So
we certainly want you to join the team. And we also are privileged to have in studio somebody that's certainly very familiar to our listeners, and that is Chelsey Youman, who is is with First Liberty. And Brad, you've never met her before. Graduate of Texas A&M and then SMU Law School. Okay. And if you turn on your television set every once in a while, you see her out there because she has such an articulate voice. But in addition to being such an outstanding lawyer, she's kind of like me, kind of a policy geek, and she really gets into all these other issues and does a great job of preparing. So I'm really appreciative the fact that you joined us on the Millennial Roundtable. Thank you for joining us on a Thursday,
Thanks so much for having me. I was just saying to someone the other day that I really love being on the show because I get to talk about more than religious liberty, which is, my career and passion, but get to talk about all kinds of Christian current events and political issues that are out there and relevant to all of us.
Especially some of the international policy issues. But I thought, if you don't mind, we'll talk religious liberty for just a minute. Because, Brad, this week, we didn't really anticipate this, but as we went through this week, and here we are Thursday, how many times has the issue of religious liberty surfaced in our conversations?
It's come up a lot. And it shows, it demonstrates just how important it is. And you know what? It's not going away, this whole issue. And you can probably speak to that quite nicely.
I can speak to that. I would say this is one area of the law that, or maybe our Constitution, that really truly impacts every single person's day-to-day life. Yeah. The way you live your life, being able to exercise your religion, just not in your home or in your pews, but being able to take that with you to work or to school and wherever you go, praying over your meals. I mean, really, all of that are issues that we've seen go to the courts even in the last year.
Right. Let's talk about this. We did have Michael Ferris on briefly earlier in the week, and of course he has two cases with Alliance Defending Freedom in front of the courts. I want to talk about all the First Liberty cases that may be in front of the court, but right now you've got two really prominent ones. One having to do with Jack Phillips. And again, Brad, you live in Colorado, so you know the story only so well. Masterpiece Cake Shop has friendships with homosexuals, but when they came in and said, we want a cake for our wedding, said, well, I can't really do that. It's not the first time he's turned down something that he had concerns about on other issues other than homosexuality. Well, of course, he was fined and brought before the Human Rights Commission and all that. And this case has gone to the Supreme Court. Go ahead. You live in Colorado.
No, it's just crazy. It's just, you look at it and you shake your head and say, you got to be kidding. Don't you have something better to do with your time? I mean, really, that's what I'm thinking. Like, this is just nuts. I mean, common sense is gone in that whole argument. That's at least the way I look at it.
And Chelsey knows the other case, which we've been talking about, and that's Aaron and Melissa Klein in Oregon. And if you think Jack Phillips had a problem, basically Oregon drove them out of business. Right. And some of the mean-spirited things, which I couldn't even repeat on the air, that they said about him and her.
Their lives have been absolutely turned upside down. And they, it's not a two-way street, I guess, in the state of Oregon, because whenever she tried to open up shop and continue to sell online or anything like that, even any small baked goods for a birthday party, the Better Business Bureau shut her down in Oregon because of her religious views. And so we definitely have seen them undergo and withstand a lot because of their faith and trying to just do their best to live in accordance with their faith.
Well, the other case, of course, is the one that's out of California, which would require these pregnancy centers to promote abortion, in some cases in large font, in multiple languages, which just, again, is compelled speech. And Chelsey, speak to this for just a minute, because we are talking about the need for people to support this ministry. And we've oftentimes talked about what would happen, if point of view ceased to exist. But for just a minute, talk about what would happen if these cases go against the Alliance Defending Freedom and First Liberty. What does that world look like?
Well, that's a scary thing. But to talk about your first point just for a second, I think that point of view sometimes discusses issues that people might not ever hear about in the news, right? We have really liberal media outlets and news outlets. And the fact that we're even talking about this case, which has really been deeply buried in Google search engine somewhere, is so important. And so one of the ramifications of this case would be really huge. First, it's a compelled speech case, and it's basically they would be compelling pregnancy resource centers. If you think about it, these are individuals who volunteer or have dedicated their lives and careers to giving women an option besides abortion and to promote children and birthing and the pro-life movement and help women. And so to force them to physically refer a woman to an abortion clinic, it's just antithetical to everything they believe and really everything they've dedicated their lives to. So this is really an important issue to wrap your head around, because I think if you start thinking about those ramifications, are really quite large to say, wow, a government entity, a city can just tell me that I have to really shut down or speak the way they want me to.
Again, one of the questions that was asked by Judge Neil Gorsuch is, the state of California has lots of ways to promote abortion. Why are you forcing a pregnancy center to do what you can do certainly on your own? And so, of course, this isn't about forcing them to do something. It's really trying to force them out of business, isn't it? That's
absolutely right. We represented Austin Pregnancy Resource Centers a few years ago in Austin, and there was a very, very similar ordinance on the books there at the city level. And we won. They had to write us a check for $500,000. But it just goes to show that it's what they call viewpoint discrimination. Yeah. So that not all viewpoints are welcome. Not all beliefs on this issue are welcome. We're really here to promote one view, which is abortion, and then shut down the pro-life movement. And that's something that if we lose at the Supreme Court, it could really be damaging across our country.
Right, that's one of the reasons why we ask people to support this ministry. As you pointed out, you probably aren't hearing the kinds of things we talk about every day here on Point of View, because it just isn't covered, even sometimes in even the Christian talk shows. But certainly we try to cover those, especially if they affect your faith, your family, or your freedom. And
you're right, and that's why we're here. Excuse me, that's why we're here, and that's why it is vital that we continue. This voice, we go back 10 years or 20 years. We've been around for 45 years. And I believe, just watching the trends of what I see and what I hear friends and others saying, is it's getting way worse. I mean, we're getting to a point where we better stop. It's like the frog in the kettle, when you turn the water up little by little, and people are just kind of fat, dumb, and happy. And that's not a good place to be in the area of religious liberty. If we don't protect it, we're going to lose it.
That's right. I mean, you can't walk back the lines that are going to be drawn in the future. And we publish for free, by the way, a book called Undeniable. You can contact us at firstliberty.org, hear about our cases, or also try to get a copy of Undeniable, which really just recounts for the last year instances of religious hostility, whether it's, the residents at the residential home who are told they can't play Christian music on the piano, to some of these bigger cases we'll have at the Supreme Court. They track these instances, and it's doubled in the last 3 years.
Oh, my goodness. Yes. Hey, I have a question for our audience. Do you believe in what we're talking about is important? Do you want your religious liberties to continue and to be protected and to be allowed to do what you want to do? Do you want some common sense? Would you give us a call and join our financial team? 800-347-5151. If you believe that, would you tell us about it through your gift? In fact, let the operator know. Say, I'm calling because of this religious liberty issue. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. Hey, the lines are open. All of you who want to call, bring it on. Let's go.
And again, we'd love to hear from you. Can you visit us either on the website, pointofview.net, or give us a call? This is a great time for you to give us a call because they'll be busy later. 800-347-5151.
Lori Taylor heard Kerby talk about sexually graphic books in schools. She thought it couldn't possibly be as bad as he said until she looked for herself.
I could not read the first sentence on here without getting a fine from the FCC.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Lori went to her school to ask if her 12-year-old daughter had seen any of the worst books.
They said, we can't do that. And I said, excuse me? And they said, that violates her privacy. And I said, she doesn't have any privacy. She's 12. And they said, that breaks the law. And I said, you're kidding me. And they said, no, and if you persist, we will call the authorities.
At that moment, Lori withdrew, but like General MacArthur, she returned and won major battles affecting children in her community and beyond. That is the kind of difference you make when you join the Truth Team. So many victories that we fought and prayed for appear to be within reach. The future is now. When you call 800-347-5151 or take a moment and visit pointofview.net/team. Together, we can finally achieve real and lasting change. 800-347-5151 and pointofview.net/team. Point of View will continue after this.
You are listening to Point of View. The opinions expressed on Point of View do not necessarily reflect the views of the management or staff of this station. And now, here again is Kerby Anderson.
If you'd like to join our conversation, and we certainly would encourage you to do so, we give you that opportunity every single day. But today we ask you to join with us in a little different way, and that is to call the pledge line, 800-347-5151. But as you make your pledge, if you wanted to say something to some of the other individuals, we've had a few people that have actually joined the conversation and said, I just became a Truth Team member, and I want to challenge some of you to do so. We'll give you that opportunity as well. But just before we let her go, Chelsey is with us today, First Liberty. And this is a partnership, Brad, if you think about it, that has existed for years. Kelly and I have known each other for decades. Right. I mean, that goes back a long way. I remember that. I hate to admit how long that goes. I knew him before. I guess I knew him when Karen had her first child. So that goes back 20 plus years easily. And of course, he was familiar with Point of View because he was listening to Marlon Maddox and Penna Dexter and myself when he was in law school. Which, again, just makes me feel really old. But nevertheless, that's the case. And
you
so
say that
we've
a lot.
had.
You must be old.
Yeah, I'm just as old as anything. But nevertheless, this relationship has been very good because we educate you about the issues, but they're out there fighting. And we've had Kelly on the program every Friday, or this time we'll have Jeremy Dice on and other individuals that have been part of that organization. So it's a partnership that we have developed, and it's one more reason to support Point of View, don't you think?
It is, and because we become your voice. And the voice of all the whole movement of religious liberty. And we're not just the only voice. There are other voices out there. But as far as the emphasis, and we have 2 hours a day that we can devote to get that message out. And so anyway, it's an exciting partnership, and I'm really glad that we can work together in that way and help be your voice.
Absolutely, absolutely. Believe it or not, it is hard sometimes for us to get the liberal media to cover our very important religious liberty issues. And so being able to speak about our cases and our clients and tell their stories when they've often faced so much opposition, that's really a huge opportunity and platform for us. So thank you, Kerby.
Well, and the other thing is I've heard you, and I've heard Michael, and I've heard Jeremy, and certainly a couple of other individuals like Kelly and the rest that have been there. And when they're on these other talk shows, they'll give them 5 minutes. And as soon as they say goodbye to Kelly, go, but there's all these other stories you didn't talk about. There's other cases that you haven't talked about. And so, again, we give you lots of time to talk about those as well.
Absolutely. It's really hard to squeeze 100 pages of pleadings into a 3-minute segment. And so this really enables us to really flesh it out and talk about the real consequences to the American people.
Before we run out of time, I talked about these 2 cases before the Supreme Court. These certainly deserve your prayer. But I want to talk about some cases that are heading up to the Supreme Court. Not all of them will make it. Let's face it, the Supreme Court only looks at 60, 70, maybe 80 cases a year. So the odds are against you. But these are cases because of their significance. I wouldn't be surprised if you found yourself kind of like our friends at ADF, where you have all sorts of cases at the same time before the Supreme Court. Can you give us a prayer target for some of these coming up?
Yes. Okay, guys. We have 6 cases on their way up to the Supreme Court. 6. That is a lot of cases.
Yes.
They've already cleared the appellate level?
Yes, they're past the appellate level, and now we're on appeal to the Supreme Court. So please go to firstliberty.org and look up these cases to, understand what all's going on. But real quick highlight would be Coach Kennedy. Many of you have probably heard about Coach Kennedy out of Washington. He was a coach fired for taking a kneel and praying silently at the 50-yard line of a football game after it was over. The Ninth Circuit held that because he's a teacher, if he ever prays where someone can see him, ever, that he's violating the Establishment Clause. So that was a really egregious holding, one that is one of the more extreme we've ever seen, frankly. So that will be on its way to the Supreme Court. Marianne Sauce, this one's really difficult to believe, so I want to get into the details, but this is the truth. The question before the Supreme Court will be, can a police officer tell you you cannot pray in your own home? Right. That's the case on the way up. Marianne Sauce, look that case up. The facts are...
Brad's hearing this for the first time, I think, and he's just like, crazy. Oh, you got to be making these up. And every time Kelly comes in here, I just say, crazy. You just can't make these things up.
You can't make it up.
Common sense, where are you?
She was listening to political radio a little too loud in her apartment, and neighbors complained. Police showed up to investigate a noise violation. She got scared and said, well, can I pray really quickly? And they would not allow her to pray in her own home. And so that is the truth of the matter. The facts are not in dispute.
No, nobody just denies the facts.
Nobody denies that.
Yeah.
That one we're waiting on the Supreme Court to grant cert right now. So big prayers for that case. The other one would be Rowan County. This is, can county commissioners pray before opening, town hall, city council meetings, etc. This has been decided previously in other arenas. We know our Congress has chaplains who pray. Our founding fathers prayed before opening government meetings. So really, we have a rich and historic heritage and history in this area, and we're aiming to protect that at the Supreme Court level. And then the final two issues going to be before the Supreme Court is Livington Christian Schools. 2 Christian schools at football state finals. Okay, 2 Christian schools using a public school stadium, state finals in Florida. They prayed over the loudspeaker before their Christian schools football games, and the Florida government said they couldn't do that because they were using a public facility. And so
it was a secular microphone.
Right, I guess it had been a designated no religious speech zone, which, by the way, is illegal, guys. Just so everyone knows, which is why that case is on the way to the Supreme Court. And then our final issue going up to the Supreme Court, we have a circuit split, and both of our cases, will be appealed. But one is Bladensburg Cross Memorials. This is so important, guys. You all have heard about the memorial disputes across our country, but this is a little bit different. It's a cross-shaped World War I memorial that the mothers of fallen soldiers, by the way, who don't have graves for the soldiers who died overseas, they came together and had this memorial built as an icon to them, as a de facto grave site to them for their sons who had died at war. And now it's being challenged by atheist groups who don't like the fact that a cross is there. And the court literally asked if they could cut off the arms of the cross, and the memorial
would be
could
less
continue
offensive
to
if we just cut off the arms of the cross.
Yeah.
You cannot make this in the court record, Brad. This is in the court record. We say, well, could we just cut off the cross arms? And, of course, this is in the Fourth Circuit, so if this stands, they could go into Arlington Cemetery and take down those crosses.
Yes, Kerby, that's exactly right. That's what everyone needs to understand. This is the same exact district as Arlington National Cemetery, and we all know how many crosses stand there. And Stars of David, by the way, it's not just, Christian symbolism. It's really religious symbolism is allowed. It's a part of our heritage and culture and the fabric of society, and it's allowed for it to be recognized. So that is on its way up to the Supreme Court. One circuit held en banc, 15 judges en banc decision that it was constitutional to have a cross memorial. The other circuit said that it was not constitutional. Yes. So now the Supreme Court will need to step in and really decide what is and is not constitutional in this area.
By the way, en banc means it's everybody. We use lots of Latin phrases in the legal area. And so, you can recognize that you might end up with 2 or 3 judges or something like that are liberal. But when you get the entire court together in the Fourth Circuit, all of them, and you still have them all going, yep, let's just take off, let's either tear down the cross or take off the arms off the cross. That's what you're getting from the Fourth Circuit right now.
If your blood's boiling like mine is, tell you what we're going to do. We are going to double we have a match challenge. We're putting it on the table right now, and I want to set a record for phone response in this last, before we get to the top of the hour. So it's a $15,000 match. Dollar for dollar match. We are starting that right now.
Okay.
And if you are as ticked off as I am about what you're hearing about and the lack of common sense, then join the Truth Team, wouldn't you? Because we are involved with this as a voice. And it's one thing to get angry and mad, but it's another thing to be prayerful, to be humble and say, oh God, we just need you more than ever to bring common sense to our culture. And a biblical worldview is what we stand for. 800-347-5151. Every dollar you give is doubled right now, my friend. 800-347-5151. Let's get every phone going, because I got to believe that I'm not the only one that's going, you got to be kidding.
Well, we talk about that so often. Again, it can be a one-time gift, or certainly we want to challenge some of you to consider giving $1 a day, $30 a month, $360 a year.
A day.
And that becomes $2 a day. Yep. We'll give you the Bible stick, and I'll hold that up again in case people haven't seen this. And, of course, that's one of the thank you gifts we send to you. But, Chelsey, just before we let you go, because I know you are a busy lawyer, what would you say to our listeners about the importance of supporting, whether it's Point of View or First Liberty, the importance of getting behind these organizations and supporting what we do?
Right. I think that so many of us, if you're like me and you really care about these issues, you care about our country, so many Americans, we really just want the best for our country, and we want to live in accordance with our faith in the only ways we know how every single day. And if you want to be involved in this fight and you want to be involved in these issues, but you don't know how, or you might not have that much time to volunteer, donating is the way to have your voice be heard. And it's the way to support organizations who are out there on the front lines.
Well, again, we're talking about the future, and we're talking about paying it forward.
Yep.
We come back, I'm going to have you hear a story about Rodney Hare hearing this and getting involved. Givers in the past helped him develop a school. Giving today will help this kind of issue of religious liberty in the future. That number, 1-800-347-5151, 1-800-347-5151. If you're listening online, you'll hear Jeremy Dice right now of First Liberty.
Welcome to the First Liberty Briefing. I'm Jeremy Dice. At this point, it's an all-too-familiar story. A same-sex couple asks a religious baker to custom-create a wedding cake. Despite apologetically declining the business, the baker is sued and the bakery is forced to close. But this is not that story. Not yet, anyway. Kathy Miller is the religious baker, and her bakery, called Tastries, is located in Bakersfield, California. She was forced to decline some business when that client would have required her to use her creative expression to lend support to a union that violates her religious convictions. The couple filed a complaint, and the state of California filed suit against Kathy. But Judge David Lamp concluded that the state has an obligation to protect free speech for everyone, including Kathy. The court reasoned that while everyone should be able to purchase ready-made goods regardless of what the customer plans to do with the goods, custom art is different. Or, as the ACLU says, freedom of expression for ourselves requires freedom of expression for others. You see, the true test of whether we actually believe in the promise of the First Amendment is speech we find socially controversial. Popular ideas are not in great danger of being suppressed or silenced. The true test of our commitment to freedom is if we welcome that disagreement and live peaceably as neighbors anyway. To learn how First Liberty is protecting religious liberty for all Americans, visit firstliberty.org.
Students and teachers are being told that prayer, Bibles, and religion are illegal in public school, but that's not true. Learn the facts. Read your free Religious Liberty Protection Kit for students and teachers at firstliberty.org right now. Don't let anyone steal your freedom with bad information. Get your Religious Liberty Protection Kit for students and teachers at firstliberty.org. That's firstliberty.org.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Hi, this is June Hunt from Hope for the Heart. Kerby and his guests are biblically based, and they bring a conservative voice to today's issues. I want to encourage you to honor this ministry with a special financial gift. You can do that at pointofview.net. That's pointofview.net. And Kerby, I thank God for your ministry. You are needed in our world because truth is needed in our hearts.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
June Hunt, somebody that comes in studio on a pretty regular basis with Hope for the Heart, and we have talked about and tackled all sorts of issues, most recently sexual harassment and things of that nature. We've talked about rape and incest and verbal abuse, and you name it. Those are all very important issues, and sometimes our conversations get pretty heavy, Brad, but that's, again, another aspect of what we do. We're not just talking about the issues. We're not just doing apologetics. Sometimes we're talking about things that are going to help you and your family and help you in your psychological development. So all of that is part of what you support when you give to Point of View.
That's right.
Again, that number, 800-347-5151. Brad, you just announced a minute ago we have a matching fund.
We do have a matched fund of $15,000. The way this works is several friends of the ministry got together and they basically said, we have some funds we want to put into the ministry, but you cannot do it until it's matched. So that $15,000 is not in our account. It's just not, that's not the way it is. It's outside of our account. And as you give, every dollar you give releases a dollar of that match fund into our total. So you got to do that because we can't put the money in otherwise. So here's the phone number if you want your gift to count super double here, okay? 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151. And as I said a few moments ago when we announced the match, if if liberty is important to you and having the freedom to live as the Constitution and the Bill of Rights is laid out, well, then you need to support us because they are being eroded. Those rights are going away little by little by little, Kerby. And we just got to say stop. And the way we do that is with a voice called Point of View. 800-347-5151 or online at pointofview.net.
And we got to hear from you because, indeed, we are dependent upon your financial support. We are listener-supported, as we've said before. But I also mentioned that while we're still talking to those of you in the Dallas area, I thought I might just tell you a story because this comes from Rodney Hare, who was listening to the program Point of View, concerned about the fact that there was a tremendous amount of humanistic, secular thought in the schools, and said, well, what can I do about that? And he came up with a very good idea to start a Christian school, and it is really one of the more outstanding Christian schools in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So let's hear a little bit more about what Rodney Hare has to say.
It was about 1980 when my wife and I moved from Dallas to Argyle, and we enrolled our kids in the Argyle public schools. Point of View was the catalyst that brought us to the realization that public schools were not an option. They just were not. When I heard Point of View explain about secular humanism, I went to our local public school because that's where my wife Judy and I had our two children, and I learned firsthand at what point. It was about 1980 when my wife and I moved from Dallas to Argyle, and we enrolled our kids in the Argyle public schools. Point of View was the catalyst that brought us to the realization that public schools were not an option. They just were not. When I heard Point of View explain about secular humanism, I went to our local public school because that's where my wife Judy and I had our two children, and I learned firsthand that what Point of View was teaching on the radio was something that was totally different than what I had understood was going on in school. It drove us to really begin a school. And that school is now Liberty Christian School in Argyle, Texas. We have a campus of 1,315 children in grades pre-K through 12th grade. Every year we graduate about 110 students. They will go to universities throughout the world. They will gain scholarships in academics and fine arts and athletics. Last year, 102 students received scholarships that totaled about $7.6 million. It was a credit to the Point of View radio station that started us with the beginnings of challenging your kids and teaching them the truth, letting them know what they can do, and encouraging them and loving on them. Our kids are prepared for the major universities through the curriculum and through the teaching of intelligent, motivated teachers. We use curriculum that's Christ-centered. It weaves Christ into the fabric of the information, and it more prepares the kids for any university in the country. Point of View is relevant today because it is still teaching the truth, and it is still current. It stays on point. and it does not waver. They have refused to lower their standards. They have refused to not teach the truth. They're not going to accept lies, and they're going to teach what you need to know about how to raise your children. Without those of us that are able to really help substantially and giving sacrificially, a point of view will never be as strong as it could be. We cannot let anything happen to Point of View Radio.
So again, just an opportunity for you to join with us. Great story from Rodney Hare, and again, an outstanding Christian school. Why did he start that? Because he was concerned about humanism in the public schools, something we talked about back in the 1980s with Tim LaHaye and a variety of other individuals. Still talking about it here today.
It's like prophets, from long ago, and all of a sudden, what we had nightmares about has come to pass.
Well, help us again understand how we can participate. We have a match on the table, so what are you asking our listeners to do?
Simply, you know what? I think a great place to start is the Truth Team 360. $1 a day. That's not a hard thing for most people to do. $1 a day, that's $360 for the year, and you're part of the Truth Team. Here's the phone number, 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151, and the match challenge is $15,000. Every dollar you give, whether a single gift or a monthly gift, will go toward that match, and up to $15,000. And monthly gifts are especially strategic during this time because we get to count the whole year, Kerby, so we can really make that total move quickly. So again, online you can give at pointofview.net. That's pointofview.net, or you can give us a call at 800-347-5151. That's 800-347-5151.
But I might just mention one more time before we take a break that as you give, we certainly want to put some thank you gifts in your hands. One of those is the Bible Stick, and we'll put that up on the screen here. And that is an MP3 player preloaded with all sorts of audio drama. In the next hour, we'll probably play a little clip or two so you can have a chance to hear what that is like. And so that's for your gift of $1 a day, $30 a month, $360 a year. But if you want to give at the next level, and I highly recommend it, $45 per month, you will receive these booklets on everything from Sharia law to homosexual theology, the Second Amendment, capitalism, and socialism. And again, we encourage you to do that because that $45 a month becomes $90 a month.
That's right.
And then if you really want to give, and I hope some of you might consider giving at the Century Club level, that's $100 a month, which becomes $200 a month. We add to that one more thing, and that is the Amazon Echo Dot.
That's
so
cool. That's
I will let you decide how you want to give. And again, as you go to the website, you can see those welcome gifts, those thank you gifts. You can also, of course, give at pointofview.net. But, Brad, we also have some people waiting for those phone calls right now in front of those phones. 800-347-5151. And we want you to participate with us. Your gift doesn't have to be too large, too small. Whatever you want to give, we appreciate that. No gift is too small. No gift is too large. So give us a call right now as we go to a break. 800-347-5151. We have a lot more to cover. We'll do that right after this.
Her name is Jennifer. Like many women, she was concerned about the country's direction, and she hoped things would change. One day, as she listened to the radio walking through her neighborhood, she happened across Point of View. There was something different about it, something hopeful. She began taking simple steps on things she was hearing. She shared what she heard with others. Her confidence was growing. She was just one woman, but Jennifer now sensed a purpose. Next, it was time to hit the road. She visited her state capital. She stood up for other believers whose rights were being trampled. Jennifer made a difference. But she never would have done anything without Point of View. She never would have started without someone like you taking one significant step to join the Truth Team. Call 800-347-5151 or visit pointofview.net/team. Together, we can achieve real and lasting change. But you have to take that first step and join the Truth Team. Won't you do it today, right now? 800-347-5151 and pointofview.net/team. Point of View will continue after this.
I just want to thank you so much for all the wonderful programming you have. You're just absolutely fantastic.
I recently started listening to Point of View, and I really found it interesting because of the different subjects you cover. Thank you for that.
I really appreciate everything that you do in keeping us informed.
Thank you, Kerby, for everything that you have been doing. I appreciate all the work that you're doing, advocating for the Word of God. Thank you so much.
Point of View, I think, is absolutely necessary because it's a Christian perspective, a biblical worldview perspective, and receive very current, up-to-date information about what is really going on, week to week in our culture, which is changing so rapidly, and yet it's morally sliding backwards.
Yeah, I'm just, first of all, I thank you guys. Y'all's program is wonderful, and enjoy it every day. I learn so much every time I listen to it.
Point of View Radio Talk Show.
Hi, this is Kerby Anderson. You know, each day we take on the tough issues and provide a biblical perspective to them. The topics we cover are wide-ranging. Apologetics, theology, prophecy, creation and evolution, intelligent design, marriage, family, child-rearing, the millennial generation, friends and society, politics, economics, business, religious liberty, the Constitution, public policy, foreign policy, military policy, tensions in the Middle East, abortion, homosexuality, pornography, sexual ethics, media, technology, history, and America's godly heritage. We talk about anything that affects your faith, your family, or your freedom. So don't go anywhere, because Point of View starts right now.
Across America, live. This is Point of View. And now, Kerby Anderson.
Got a lot to cover in the next 2 hours, and certainly yesterday when Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, said he was going to step down, I don't think he understood what he was about ready to unleash. As we've pointed out on this program before, about 4 dozen or more Republicans are retiring from the House of Representatives. These are going to then be open seats. There are those who have said, well, who's going to be running this? There's now been some pressure for him to step down as Speaker of the House. Those who are saying, well, should we put Kevin McCarthy in there? Should we have a vote about Kevin McCarthy or Steve Scalise? Some people are talking about Jim Jordan. So a lot happening. And, of course, as we've talked about this week, these midterm elections are going to be very important, and those are going to not only affect the House of Representatives, but especially in the United States Senate when we talk about some of these religious liberty cases and individuals that would be put on the federal court or even on the Supreme Court. So, Brad Fisk, we always have a lot to talk about here on Point of View.
No shortage of topics, and that is one of the things that we're so excited about Point of View. And we've been able to come to the microphone for over 45 years doing this, and we're not stopping now. And that's why we're so excited about this week as a special week.
This is a week called Truth Team Week.
Yes.
And in just a minute, Chuck Bentley will be with us. He's with Crown Financial, an organization started originally by Larry Burkett. We've posted one of his articles, How to Pass the True Money Test. We'll talk about some of the financial issues as well as some of these political issues. And, of course, he'll be certainly encouraging you to give to this ministry. And then in the next hour, Lee Strobel will be with us, Case for Christ, and also talking about apologetics. But let's just mention the fact that here it is Thursday. This is the 4th day of our Truth Team Week. And we have seen some very good response, but we still need to hear from very many of you. So if you're listening right now and you have not called this number, 800-347-5151, or if you've not gone to the website, pointofview.net, and made your pledge, I think you have some good news about this, don't you?
We do indeed. We have some friends of the ministry that got together and said, you know what? We have $15,000 that we will be glad to add to your total if and only if your listeners match it. So the way it works is this. The $15,000 is not inside our total. It's sitting there waiting for you to pledge. So if you pledge at 800-347-5151 and you come in at that $1 a day level, which is $360 for the year, it becomes $720, just like that. Any size gift, monthly or single, is matched dollar for dollar. That's what this match challenge, and we really need to get this cleared up this hour. Really, by the top of the hour, we need to have it done. So let's not wait. We have plenty of lines open right now that that you. Here's what we want you to do. Give us a call, 800-347-5151. That's toll-free, 800-347-5151.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Point of View is a part of my daily life, and I know of no other radio program that helps its listeners to develop, articulate, and then defend a biblical worldview as successfully as yours does. For those reasons, I consider it an honor to be able to support Point of View financially, and I would encourage all of your listeners, both young and old, to prayerfully consider doing the same.
I just turned your program on, and I want to just let you know I was working in an abortion clinic when abortion first became legal, and I thought I was helping women. And the Lord showed me in a very powerful way, as he removed the veil from me, what exactly I've been involved in. And I am proof of forgiveness. And I want to just let you know how much I appreciate just getting the truth out.
I really appreciate your program. I don't get to listen to it every day because I have to work, but it's a really a blessing to me and to all of us.
You know, my husband and I take so many extra precautions to guard our children, and it is a huge effort on the part of Christian parents to do that. I wanted to thank y'all for everything you do each day to inform Christian families and our community about the things we can do, and just the way you're so informative. I listen to you daily and love you guys and appreciate you so much.
I just appreciate all you guys do. I mean, I learned so much, and it's amazing what you teach that I say to other people, and they look at me like, where did you hear that? So I appreciate you guys. So thank you for all you do.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Future is now. And again, you heard some incredible stories. We are certainly talking about this issue of abortion so often here on Point of View.
We are.
And I've heard from individuals who, as you heard just there, began to rethink whether or not they want to be involved in the abortion business. I've heard from individuals that say they've listened to this program and thought the only answer to their problem of the crisis problem, a crisis pregnancy, was an abortion, until they found out that there were alternatives, and they actually went to a pregnancy resource center. We know of one individual that actually started a pregnancy resource center simply because of listening to Point of View.
That's awesome.
Story after story after story. We may not have time for all of those. In just a few minutes, I want to play something by Jim McKee, who started a crisis pregnancy center in the Dallas area. But before we do that, Brad, we really need to get this cleaned up. This is one of those situations where we don't have a lot of time, and we have a very significant, matter of fact, the largest match fund that we have right at the moment.
That's correct. It's a $15,000 dollar-for-dollar match challenge, and we really, really need to get this cleared up by the top of the hour. So we're asking you to pray and obey. See what God would have you do. But you know what? Don't do it for that reason. There's a couple other reasons I want to give you, like change lives. Like people, you're just saying, they're going one direction, then going another. How many times do we hear that the topics discussed here are found nowhere else? We are about truth. That really sums the whole ministry up into one word: truth with a capital T.
At a time when we live in a post-truth culture, which we talked about yesterday with our friend Nick Pitts, that is something that we need to be speaking truth into the culture.
Very true.
And I might just mention, as we come to a break here, that as we've said before, for your gift of $1 a day, $30 a month, $360 a year, we have, for example, the Bible stick that we will send as a thank you gift. It is preloaded with audio drama of the New Testament with music and sound effects, and we'll play some of that this hour if we can. It's a word-for-word translation.
Not sold in stores. It's only available here, guys.
So only here, so you can only get it through Point of View. We also, of course, at the $45 a month level, have an anniversary club, and that also includes the Bible stick, but these booklets that have things on such issues as Sharia law, homosexual theology, capitalism and socialism, the Second Amendment, whatever that might be, we can certainly address those issues and do. And you can read those in less than 10 minutes.
Yes, they're awesome.
And again,
they're really a great
$45
gift.
A month actually becomes what? $90
That's right.
a month.
$90 a month. Imagine that. That's really stretching your money forward.
And then lastly, a Century Club. As we go to a break here, this is where we'd love to hear maybe some of you that say, you know, I probably could give you $100 a month. And that becomes $200 a month. That $1,200 in a year becomes $2,400 a year. So please take the time right now to call. We really do need to get this cleaned up because we're moving on to some other topics, and we're going to be talking with Chuck Bentley in just a minute. So give us a call. That number is 800-347-5151. You don't have to have all the money in your hand right now.
Nope.
We just need a pledge from you.
That's right.
And no gift is too small. No gift is too large. Some of you may want to give us a $1,000 one-time gift. That's great, too. Some of you might be able to give $5. Whatever it is, each one of those are matched. So, again, go to pointofview.net, or you can give us a call right now, 800-347-5151.
Every dollar doubled.
We need to hear
Every
from
dollar
you.
doubled. Let's go.
800-347-5151.
Yes. Get her done.
This is Viewpoints with Kerby Anderson.
The Constitution mandates a survey of Americans every decade, and the Commerce Secretary has discretion over the questions that census takers must ask. In most administrations, that would be the end of it. But Donald Trump is the president, and just about everything that is proposed in his administration is controversial. The Justice Department asked census officials to include a question about citizenship so they can better enforce the Voting Rights Act. Including such a question was so controversial that a number of states have filed suit against the Trump administration. Some commentators have suggested that the liberal overreaction to the question is a good reason why we should push for it. The attorneys generals argue that asking this question might undercount people in blue states and affect congressional representation. Actually, there are lots of places in red states with illegal immigrants. Here are just a few towns where the percentage of undocumented immigrants exceeds 10%. McAllen, Texas, Yuma, Arizona, Gainesville, Georgia. Critics also fear that illegal immigrants will not fill out the U.S. Census forms. That has not been the response with the long-form census that already asked the question about citizenship. On the other hand, it has been a problem getting illegal immigrants to fill out the short form, even with massive outreach programs. Several other countries, from Australia to the United Kingdom, do include a citizenship question on their surveys. The United States used to ask the question on the short form until the 1960s and has continued to ask about citizenship on the long form. The Justice Department said it needs more data for the location of voters for a fair enforcement of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. I think that is reason enough to include the question. I'm Kerby Anderson, and that's my point of view.
For more information about issues covered on Viewpoints, visit pointofview.net. Pointofview.net. Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now. James Robison.
I love the fact that you are addressing the issues that actually matter and probably matter more than people have realized. And I think people are in shock right now by the fact that we didn't take these precious things that we have in liberty and freedom and the opportunity that the blessings of God have afforded us. We have not been responsible in preserving them, and we appear to be very close to losing them. And the fact that you all are committed to delivering truth that sets us free and keeps us free, I want to thank you. I thank Point of View. I thank every person who supports the incredible radio broadcast, and I hope they will continue. They will even enlarge their support, and others will join in. Thank you, Kerby, for well, not only your gift and your talent, but your commitment to the will and the kingdom purpose of God. God bless you, and God bless Point of View.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
James Robison, and he's been on the program with us over the years and also helped start the stream. And we oftentimes not only quote from him, but many of the other people that participate there and bring them on the program. And just one more way to educate our listeners, and certainly this focus of truth. This hour we're going to be talking about economics and giving and a number of other things. But Brad, give us an update, because we're in the midst of, actually on the 4th day of Truth Team Week, and you have a match on the table which we need to meet.
And this match from some friends of the ministry, and it's $15,000. It's a little less than that now. I'm going to go find out a little bit where we're at, but I know we're not there. We're not even close.
No.
So we really need to be there by the top of the hour, okay? So we're talking under 45 minutes to get there. So we're asking you to give us a call with your very best gift. Look, you guys, if you really enjoy the ministry of Point of View, if this ministry means something to you, like James Robinson was just saying, it's freedom, it's truth, and it's eroding, it's going away. And so we're asking you to help us continue to have the strong voice in all of Christendom and all of our culture. Here's how you do it. You give us a call at 1-800-347-5151. That's 800-347-5151. Or you can always give online at pointofview.net.
One of the things we love to do is try to partner with organizations we think so highly of, and of course this next one is certainly one of those. Crown Financial is a great organization, Crown Financial Ministries, crown.org. Matter of fact, we've posted an article by Chuck Bentley, How to Pass the True Money Test, just so that you can find one of his many blog posts. And of course, he is an individual that is really following in the footsteps of Larry Burkett, who we've mentioned a couple of times this week, as well as Howard Dayton. You hear his national radio broadcast, My Money Life. And Chuck Bentley, it is always great to partner with you and to hear from you here on Point of View.
Well, thank you, Kerby. I've been online since you went on the air today, and listening to what you and Brad have to say and encouraging listeners to come be partners with Point of View. So I'm the one honored and excited to be a part of the program today.
One of the reasons we posted your piece on how to pass the true money test is that sometimes you say one of the greatest tests we'll ever face involves our love of money. Money's not the problem, it's the love of money. And sometimes that's an important issue if we're going to have good biblical stewardship about our resources.
Well, no doubt about it, and I'm concerned about the stewardship of our resources. Kerby, I believe one of the issues that needs a lot of truth shed on the topic right now is the issue of economics from God's perspective. I was just reading the article today that we collected a record amount of federal income taxes in the first 6 months of the fiscal year. I think it was $1.5 trillion. That's a new record. And we also established a record for one of the greatest deficits in the same period of time. We overspent by $600 billion. So we're having a great deal of problems getting ahead at the federal level. I think the same problems exist at the state levels and also in the individuals' lives in America. We're a very affluent culture, and yet we're living on the financial edge. And I think people like you that shed truth on these topics, that speak to the issues of our day, that are relevant on what's really happening. So people like me can actually tune into your program. It's one of the reasons that I am a member of the Truth 360 team, is that I can learn, I can be informed, and you guys are doing the hard work for us. But I thank you for what you're doing, and I'm calling in today to say my wife and I are personally supporting the ministry, and we want to encourage other people to do the same.
Well, I certainly would agree with that. Let's talk about that for just a minute, too, because when we talk about what has happened at the national level, spending bill $1.3 trillion, and still that's not enough to even meet the financial obligations of this government. We, somewhere along the line, need to come back to basic principles. And before too many of our listeners start pointing the finger at the federal government, they might point the finger back at themselves, because as you have pointed out on Crown Financial and you've pointed out on this program, it's not just the indebtedness of the federal government, it's also the personal indebtedness of American citizens, isn't it?
Well, we have the exact same problem of those that we sort of cast the stones towards. We look at our government, we say they're living kind of in this fantasy world with no savings and high debt, and yet it's the exact same situation that Americans find themselves in. Half of Americans today do not have $1,000 in savings. 76% of Americans say they're living from paycheck to paycheck. And so that's threatening to the good work that's being done in the kingdom of God. Imagine if God's people are wanting to respond, they're wanting to support truth, but they're unable to. But I think it creates a sense of urgency, Kerby, that we have to change our ways of how we're managing money and how we're stewarding it, not because we want to have a better lifestyle or we want to get the latest iPhone, but because we can be more involved in impacting the kingdom of God here on earth that so desperately needs to be spread and advanced. And so we're talking to people right now, listening to the program, who may be saying, I want to help, but I just can't. Well, what needs to happen is that priority has to shift to say, I'm going to help. I'm going to make that decision, and then I'll change all the other things that I do with my finances. I think generosity is the first and highest priority with money. We should make God and his kingdom first, and then we order all the other decisions around that one. That's the one that has to be fixed in terms of our commitment. All the other expenses need to be the variable ones.
You know, Chuck, you and your wife, Ann, at one point said, you know, we are going to step out on faith and we're going to give. What would you say to some of our listeners right now that say, you know, Chuck, you're right, I don't have $1,000 that I could give to Point of View. I don't have $1,000 if we had an emergency. But there is seemingly sort of a spiritual accounting principle that says if you give to God first, all the other resources begin to fall in line in ways that don't necessarily make sense from a secular mindset, but make sense from a biblical point of view.
Well, the Lord told us to honor him with the first fruits of our wealth, to honor him. And so if we're farmers, the very first part of the crop that's harvested goes to the Lord to say, you know, Lord, I couldn't harvest this crop without your help. You bring the rain, you give the sunshine, you cause the crops to grow. And I'm going to say you're first in my life by my generosity. I'm going to be serious about that. Well, we're no different. We're all receiving some sort of harvest, and we need to honor God and make him first in that decision. And the way I've always looked at it was this: would I rather have God's help with my financial burdens and challenges by giving him some and saying, Lord, I'm going to honor you, and now I need you to help me, or would I rather keep it 100% to myself and try to solve my problems? And I found that I'm much better off by saying, okay, Lord, I need to obey you. I need to do what you said to do is wise with our resources and obey your principles. And he's promised to do that. The people who are asking him, what are we going to eat? What are we going to drink? What are we going to wear? He said, well, stop worrying and seek first the kingdom of God, and all those things will be added unto you. Make him first and see what God can do.
Well, Brad, we have a match on the table.
We do.
And we really want to challenge some people to maybe even stretch themselves a little bit and see what they can do to support this ministry.
Yeah, we simply would invite you to come, humbly invite you to come. And I talk more about this later, but, you know, Point of View, the staff and the team here, this is a lean machine, and it's very efficient with the funds that are donated. I see it with firsthand. So know that your money is going very far when it comes here. 1-800-347-5151. We have a $15,000 match challenge. Really need to get this cleared up in the next 30 minutes, and we're asking you to help us do that. One gift at a time. No gift too large or small. The size is up to you, but 100% participation is so desired. We have phones available right now for you to take the call. 2 to 3 minutes. You don't have to have the money now. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151.
Or you can go to pointofview.net. Love to hear from you, and we have people standing by. 800-347-5151.
Lori Taylor heard Kerby talk about sexually graphic books in schools. She thought it couldn't possibly be as bad as he said until she looked for herself.
I could not read the first sentence on here without getting a fine from the FCC.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Lori went to her school to ask if her 12-year-old daughter had seen any of the worst books.
They said, we can't do that. And I said, excuse me? And they said, that violates her privacy. And I said, she doesn't have any privacy. She's 12. And they said, that breaks the law. And I said, you're kidding me. And they said, no, and if you persist, we will call the authorities.
At that moment, Lori withdrew, but like General MacArthur, she returned and won major battles affecting children in her community and beyond. That is the kind of difference you make when you join the Truth Team. So many victories that we've fought and prayed for appear to be within reach. The future is now. When you call 800-347-5151 or take a moment and visit pointofview.net/team. Together, we can finally achieve real and lasting change. 800-347-5151 and pointofview.net/team. Point of View will continue after this.
are listening to Point of View. The opinions expressed on Point of View do not necessarily reflect the views of the management or staff of this station. And now, here again is Kerby Anderson.
Truth Team Week, and we certainly do need to hear from you. 1-800-347-5151. The website, pointofview.net. And Brad Fisk with me in studio, Chuck Bentley with us. And let me just mention real quickly that one individual, Kim from Ohio, said, I'll give $50 a month. Of course, if you give $45 a month or more, you receive these booklets.
And the Bible stick.
And the Bible stick. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. But my booklets more recently have been on Sharia law, the politicized culture, making your vote count, homosexual theology, privacy and surveillance, the Second Amendment, capitalism and socialism. So these are awesome booklets that we make available to you, and that's something that you can receive if you indeed want to give at least $45 a month. And the reason for $45 is Point of View's been on for more than 45
That's
years.
Right. It fits in your shirt pocket. It takes less than 10 minutes to read, and I'm a huge fan of these booklets.
Now, if you give at the $1 a day level, of course, you receive the Bible stick we mentioned just a minute ago. And just before we get back to the conversation with Chuck, one of the things I thought we might do is play just one of the excerpts from the Bible stick, and this is in Luke 6.
Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you.
He also told them a parable.
Can a blind man lead a blind man? Will they not both fall into a pit? A disciple is not above his teacher, but everyone, when he is fully trained, will be like his teacher. Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye?
So again, it's part of the Bible stick, which again is the entire New Testament loaded music, sound effects, 40 different voices, word-for-word translation, English Standard Version, and as you've pointed out before, not sold in the stores. So you can get it simply by giving or pledging, and you don't even have to have the money right now, but $1 a day, $30 a month, $360 a year.
It has by far and away been the most popular premium we have ever done if you add up all of the years together. And I want to say thanks to Christopher, who made a pledge online at pointofview.net. Carla, Barbara, who says, I appreciate that Kerby is telling the truth. Okay, so there you go. Thank you. So, hey, it's time for you to get involved. Once you jump in and help us. Oh, by the way, Match Challenge, I got to give an update on that. You do. We are down to $14,180 to go, and we've got all of 20 minutes to get the rest of it. Come on, you guys, 800-347-5151. That's 800-347-5151.
You know, we just heard from Luke 6, Chuck, but of course in your piece that we've posted today, Jesus tells the parable of a rich young ruler. Of course, we can look at 1 Samuel 16 that talks about the Lord does not look at the things that people look at, but people look at the outward appearance. It seems to me that we need to begin to look at this whole issue of stewardship and generosity with a set of biblical eyes rather than to look at it the way the secular world looks at it.
Well, there's no doubt about that, Kerby. I was just telling my staff this morning that I like to read history, and I'm in the middle of reading some stories about the Civil War and about President Lincoln. And one of the things that became abundantly clear is that the South had a window, an opportunity to change their currency from Confederate dollars into Union dollars into the American dollars that was going to last. Because their dollars, the Confederate dollar, had a limit coming. It was not going to have any value going forward after the war. And that's the same situation that you and I face. Our currency, while it feels important to us right now, will expire. It will not have lasting value. It will not have eternal value. And so we have an opportunity to convert it into something of lasting eternal value. And that's when the Lord said, lay up for ourselves treasures in heaven, not on earth. And I think being generous to God's work is one of the key ways that we lay up those treasures, that we say we're not going to spend those funds on ourselves. We're going to deny ourselves some of the things that we want or believe that we have to have right now, and we're going to invest it in God's kingdom and in His work. And I do believe, Kerby and Brad, that Point of View is such a great investment. You are doing such a great work, such an important work. And it's a work that I can't imagine that we wouldn't have access to. I can't imagine the void that would be created in the body of Christ without the knowledge and the wisdom and the insights and the research and all the influence that comes through Point of View. And Kerby, if you're like us, you know, I'm the head of a not-for-profit organization, and we're required to meet budget and to raise funds like you are. And I think when a matching challenge is given, it's just like, thank you, Lord.
Yeah,
thank
that's
you,
true.
Lord, that somebody is going to step
Yes.
up and say to other people, we believe in this organization. We're willing to put $15,000 behind it. We're willing to tell other people, it's safe here. Come and join us. We're endorsing it at a high level. And the second thing we need so much, Kerby, are monthly supporters. That stabilizes our budget. It allows us to forecast better. It allows us to hire better. It allows us to make long-term decisions to have a greater impact. And so I want to encourage the person who says, well, I don't have $15,000, and that match sounds awful big, and maybe my gift wouldn't make much difference. Actually, your small monthly gift, whatever it is, whether it's at that 30 or 40 or 50 or 100 or more, that makes a huge difference, especially when you follow through and you're faithful every month.
That's right. As we've said before, our bills come in monthly, so if our income comes in monthly, we're a lot better off. And again, back to budgeting and all of the rest are certainly very important issues. And never really thought about it before, but again, Brad, when we have somebody that steps forward, even as we had one in studio the other day, step forward and say, I want to put a match on the table.
That's right.
That is, again, just a kind of a seal of approval. So just one more thing to mention, and I just love the economic wisdom and the financial wisdom of Chuck Bentley, don't you?
Oh, I do too. Thank you for those great words, Chuck. You know, because you kind of answered a question I had about where are Christians missing it in terms of being generous. It seems like a lot of us are missing the point. And where do you think that downfall might be?
Well, Brad, I think it comes with the very, very beginning of where our income where it comes from. God is our provider, and He owns everything. He doesn't have a call on 10%. He has a call on 100%.
Preach it. Yep.
I've had this experience where I've taken the boys out to eat. I have 4 boys, and you buy them a Big Mac and get the hot fries there, and they're about to eat, and you reach over and you grab one of the French fries just to munch on 1 or 2 before you start eating. And one of the kids, when they were younger, would say, "Hey, that's mine." And, you look at him and you think, wait a minute, I provided every bit that everything's on this table. I bought all of it.
I
can't have 2 French fries. And that's how we treat the Lord. We say, it's mine.
Yep.
And he said, wait a minute, I provided everything you have. I provided your very next breath. I provided your health, your life. Everything comes from God. So it's not how much are we going to give to God, it's how much we're going to keep of God's for ourselves. That's the better decision. And if we make that decision correctly and say, this is 100% God's, how much do I need for my own needs? And then how much can I put in His kingdom? I think today is a great day for people to wrestle with that question and then to follow through and to say, that challenge, I'm going to act on it, and I'm going to bless the place where I heard that. I'm going to give back to the ministry that helped me to understand that. I'm going to give the Point of View, and I'm going to make a commitment and follow through with it.
Let me again encourage you to go to our website, pointofview.net, and one of the things we've done is put this particular article that is by Chuck, How to Pass the True Money Test. Now, some of us didn't like tests, but life is full of tests,
It is.
And this is a great test, and certainly as you have benefited over the years to support Crown Financial, we encourage you to continue to support that organization. But Chuck, as we are coming to the end of this segment, again, I want to thank you for helping us challenge our listeners to support Point of View, and I want to thank you and Ann for your desire to support us as well. So thank you so very much.
Yes.
Well, it's our privilege, Kerby. It's our privilege what you do, what you and Kelly do, the people you influence, the millennial roundtables you host. All of that is just so very important, and we're privileged to be your partner. I've always said if you need any help, I'll come on and share with passion and conviction that I believe in what you're doing, and we're huge fans, and we've been beneficiaries as well. And let me just say one thing. I cannot believe you're about to talk to Lee Strobel. we have made it a Easter tradition to watch A Case for Christ in our home, just to remind ourselves of his great story. And please give him my highest regards when he comes on next, Kerby.
Well, thank you so very much. Chuck Bentley, and again, we can give you all sorts of great information about Crown Financial Ministries, but we have a match on the table. So what can we do to meet that match?
$14,180 remaining, and we would love to get this down to zero by the top of the hour. And your phone call can make all the difference in the world to make that happen. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. 7 lines open. It's wide open for you to walk in and give us a call right now.
Pointofview.net, or again, 800-347-5151.
Let's go.
Be right back.
Everything's doubled.
Welcome to the First Liberty Briefing. I'm Jeremy Dice. At this point, it's an all-too-familiar story. A same-sex couple asks a religious baker to custom create a wedding cake. Despite apologetically declining the business, the baker is sued and the bakery is forced to close. But this is not that story. Not yet, anyway. Kathy Miller is the religious baker, and her bakery, called Tasteries, is located in Bakersfield, California. She was forced to decline some business when that client would have required her to use her creative expression to lend support to a union that violates her religious convictions. The couple filed a complaint, and the state of California filed suit against Kathy. But Judge David Lamp concluded that the state has an obligation to protect free speech for everyone, including Kathy. The court reasoned that while everyone should be able to purchase ready-made goods regardless of what the customer plans to do with the goods, custom art is different. Or, as the ACLU says, freedom of expression for ourselves requires freedom of expression for others. You see, the true test of whether we actually believe in the promise of the First Amendment is speech we find socially controversial. Popular ideas are not in great danger of being suppressed or silenced. The true test of our commitment to freedom is if we welcome that disagreement and live peaceably as neighbors anyway. To learn how First Liberty is protecting religious liberty for all Americans, visit firstliberty.org.
Students and teachers are being told that prayer, Bibles, and religion are illegal in public school, but that's not true. Learn the facts. Read your free Religious Liberty Protection Kit for students and teachers at firstliberty.org right now. Don't let anyone steal your freedom with bad information. Get your Religious Liberty Protection Kit for students and teachers at firstliberty.org. That's firstliberty.org.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Hi, this is Bruce Pepin. I'm the author of The Best Is Yet to Be, Moving Mountains in Midlife. And I have to tell you, it has been such an encouragement for me to work with Kerby and to be a part of the Point of View family. They have an incredible outreach, and I have personally been inspired to see how God has raised up Kerby and this team to speak into the important issues that our country is facing from a biblical perspective, and I'm just honored to be a part of what God is doing through Point of View Ministries.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Got a chance to know Bruce Pepin a little bit better. He used to be with Focus on the Family, so of course he was up in Colorado. Of course,
I know Bruce Pepin.
Of course you do.
Yeah, it didn't connect until just now.
Yeah, of course, you both worked at Focus on the Family.
Bruce is a great guy.
And now he's in Dallas area. But he told the story the very first time he was on, and this goes back in a previous studio and previous years, in which when he was on, there were people all over the country in other countries listening because, like, he has some family members, for example, in New Zealand, places like that. And they're not necessarily churched people as well. And they were so impressed with the interview and the format and all of the rest. And so he thanked me at the time for the fact that, sometimes when you have unsaved family members, and you're in the Christian ministry, they're kind of going, I don't know. They have certain biases. And so he's been so appreciative of the professional way we've done this. And, of course, we've gotten to know him a lot better because he and his wife now are in the Dallas area. So we crossed paths. He's been in studio here, seen our new studios and all the rest. So just another one of those stories.
I got to look him up sometime.
Well, I'll connect you. I should have brought him in this week since I thought you guys knew each other.
Oh, yeah, we do.
So, again, we have a match on the table. And in just a minute, I want to tell the story about Jim McKee because we talked earlier about an individual that started a pregnancy resource center, and that one's in Fort Worth. But then I thought I need to come back and talk about the very first one, a first pregnancy center that was started here in Dallas because of the influence of Point of View. But first of all, how are we doing in terms of the match, and what are some of the comments from some of our listeners?
We're down to 12,300 remaining on the match. We'd love to get that cleared up in the next 10 minutes or so, and you can do that. You can do your part as these people have done at 800-347-5151. There will be some lines open now. 800-347-5151. If you get a busy signal, we actually have you in a queue, and we'll get to you fast. We got a lot of people on the phones. I want to say thanks to a friend from St. Augustine, Texas. And what they did is this is what they said. God has blessed us, so we want to bless you.
Thank
they
you.
gave $130 a month, which now becomes $260 a month.
Outstanding.
Isn't that great? But again, it's just so exciting because they're giving because they've been blessed, and I like that. And here's a friend from New Mexico, and loves Point of View, loves the fact that we're on the front lines of the battle. I like that. And then another friend, listen to this. If I could only have one program on the air, it would be Point of View. Favorite radio program right there. And thank you for your gift. And that's checking in from Arizona. And then we also have Sharon checking in from South Carolina with a single gift. And she gets her news every day from us. And the church she goes to, the only ministry they support is us.
Well, that is
Point of View.
outstanding.
Isn't that outstanding?
Do want to tell the story for just a minute. Jim McKee has been a good friend, and he was the individual that started the Dallas Pregnancy Center, which later was called Dallas Pregnancy Resource Center, now called Thrive. So it's had a number of different names, but he really credits Point of View to giving him sort of the motivation to starting this pregnancy center. Back then, we called them crisis pregnancy centers, and here's Jim McKee.
What Marlon Maddox did at that point in time really provided that there again the framework of the example of what could take place when we got that message out, and what could take place when the average individual in the pew stepped forward and used their God-given gifts and talents as the Good Samaritan did, just to help somebody else in need. And so there was a transformation that really did take place from just being upset about a problem to actively doing something tangible and real about solving the problem. So he was that mouthpiece, if you will, that clarion voice that there was hope, that really gave us the framework and the foundation that is still being felt today. He very much demonstrated that we not only should have a gospel-centered approach to our lives, but making sure that we were actually demonstrating that level of hope in real and tangible ways. And he was on the cutting vanguard, the cutting edge, the vanguard of that process taking place. And out of that knowledge and understanding, we brought a model in from Mississippi called Save a Life. And at that point in time, we began the process of putting the ministry together. And eventually, it at that time was called Crisis Pregnancy Centers of Dallas, in which we were providing real help to to families and to women who are facing problem pregnancies as an alternative to abortion.
Again, those of us that have been around for a while, and I guess I'm one of the old guys around the table, remember when we had the Save a Life, the crisis pregnancy centers? Now we have pregnancy resource centers and all of that, and we see that there are actually no more pregnancy resource centers in the country than there are abortion clinics. We're winning the war of ideas, and a lot of that, I think, goes back to the vision that this radio program, and certainly some others, have been able to cast, and the desire of individuals and local communities to do so. And Jim McKee started the Crisis Pregnancy Center in Dallas. On Monday, I was at an event, and I actually ran into the individual that runs the pregnancy center now.
All right.
And so this is now decades old, and yet, again, you think of those people standing out in front of clinics, talking women out of abortion, and individuals working in pregnancy centers. That's just something else that we have tried to spawn and to encourage all these years through Point of View.
You know, and Point of View, let me brag on Point of View for just a moment. Really been in the forefront of this battle right from the very beginning, realizing the value of life and making that the issue. You know, this thing has turned into a money thing in many ways and in different aspects with, you know, the whole Planned Parenthood thing and all of the tax money. And what I love about what's been going on is Point of View has been educating people like me and the next door neighbor and the guy in my Sunday school class. And, you know, you've been bringing us along saying, wait a minute, this is wrong, and here's something you can do about it. Talk about taking action.
Yeah.
There's been all kinds of action points throughout the years. I remember it many times, Point of View, you're at the tip of the spear when that's going on.
Well, and again, we also put our time and energy where our money is and where our broadcasts are. My wife, who's just down the road here, that's actually taking some of these phone calls, she'll tell you that I probably speak at more pregnancy resource center banquets than anything else because I love the ministry and anything I can do to encourage them. But you would encourage us right now, without a doubt, if you would make that phone call. We, a minute ago, actually had, I think, all the lines full, which means that somebody wouldn't probably get a busy signal, but they would go into queue. Now I look and see that there are some people that are not taking phone calls. So this would be a perfect time as we go to the break for you to give us a call. We have that match. We'll give you an update next hour of where that is, but I see that there has been a flurry of phone calls.
But it's not done. The match is not done. I know that.
It's certainly not done, and we certainly have a number of individuals standing by the phone waiting for it to ring. So can you make it ring right now?
800-347-5151. Hey, for life. Vote for life. Go ahead and join the Truth Team for life. 800-347-5151. Can't think of a better reason to do that. 800-347-5151. We could do this whole match right now. 3 lines open. Just call if you get a busy signal. Hang on, and let's get this match cleared up. You can also give at pointofview.net immediately. Pointofview.net.
You know, we have Lee Strobel coming up next hour. You don't want to miss that. No. So that's why you want to call right now. Help us meet that match. We'll move on to some other topics. Of course, Lee Strobel's going to have a lot to say, so we're looking forward to that. 1-800-347-5151. Please call right now. 800-347-5151.
Her name is Jennifer. Like many women, she was concerned about the country's direction, and she hoped things would change. One day, as she listened to the radio walking through her neighborhood, she happened across Point of View. There was something different about it, something hopeful. She began taking simple steps on things she was hearing. She shared what she heard with others. Her confidence was growing. She was just one woman, but Jennifer now sensed a purpose. Next, it was time to hit the road. She visited her state capital. She stood up for other believers whose rights were being trampled. Jennifer made a difference. But she never would have done anything without Point of View. She never would have started without someone like you taking one significant step to join the Truth Team. Call 800-347-5151. or visit pointofview.net/team. Together, we can achieve real and lasting change. But you have to take that first step and join the Truth Team. Won't you do it today, right now? 800-347-5151 and pointofview.net/team. Point of View will continue after this.
I just want to thank you so much for all the wonderful programming you have. You're just absolutely fantastic.
I recently started listening to Point of View, and I really found it interesting because of the different subjects you cover. Thank you for that.
I really appreciate everything that you do in keeping us informed.
Thank you, Kerby, for everything that you have been doing. I appreciate all the work that you're doing, advocating for the Word of God. Thank you so much.
Point of View, I think, is absolutely necessary because it's a Christian perspective, a biblical worldview perspective, and receive very current, up-to-date information about what is really going on, week to week in our culture, which is changing so rapidly, and yet it's morally sliding backwards.
Yeah, I'm just, first of all, I thank you guys. Y'all's program is wonderful, and enjoy it every day. I learn so much every time I listen to it.
Point of View Radio Talk Show.
Hi, this is Kerby Anderson. You know, each day we take on the tough issues and provide a biblical perspective to them. The topics we cover are wide-ranging. Apologetics, theology, prophecy, creation and evolution, intelligent design, marriage, family, child-rearing, the millennial generation, trends in society, politics, economics, business, religious liberty, the Constitution, public policy, foreign policy, military policy, tensions in the Middle East, abortion, homosexuality, pornography, sexual ethics, media, technology, history, and America's godly heritage. We talk about anything that affects your faith, your family, or your freedom. So don't go anywhere, because Point of View continues right now.
Across America, live. This is Point of View. And now, Kerby Anderson.
Thank you for joining me. We still have a very important match on the table, but let me also mention that in just a few minutes we're going to be talking with Lee Strobel, and one of the articles we've posted on our website is about the book and movie The Case for Christ, and also the upcoming movie The Case for Grace that is coming up, and Case for Miracles, and some of the other things that he's working on. So we'll be talking with him in just a few minutes. But as you may be well aware, we have been talking about the need for you to join with us and to be part of the Truth Team. And again, that pledge line number is 800-347-5151. Brad Fisk in studio with us. And last hour we had a flurry of activity. Where did we come out so far on the match?
Well, we have 9,400 remaining in the match, and that needs to be done by the top of the hour. Has to be, or the money goes off the table and we don't get it. So that's $9,400 at risk, and every dollar you give will be matched dollar for dollar. I want to do a machine gun thank you here really fast, okay? So Bryce from Arizona, Gail from California, Melinda from California. There's a Truth Team member coming up here. David from Texas, Dover from, that was Angela from Arkansas, another Truth Team member. Margaret from Missouri, thank you. Brenda checking in from Illinois. Gloria from California. Anna from Texas. Margaret from Texas. New Hampshire checking in. Thank you, Rick, for your gift. And there's more. And there's one online from Alaska. Thank you so much for that. So I'm excited about that. But you know what? It's not done yet. So here's the phone number, 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. Have you done your part? Please do.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
I just want to commend you guys on your program. I love listening to you.
I want to say, first of all, that I really enjoyed the Millennial Roundtable, and I love the program altogether. I think Kerby is great, and I really appreciate all of y'all, all that y'all do, and the truth that y'all put out.
I think you guys and gals are more right on about the assessment of this country right now than anything I've heard. You know, I go home and I tell my wife, you've got to hear what they're talking about on the show.
Point of View is actually a lifeline for me, and I'm actually a third-generation Point of View listener. I homeschool my girls, and I don't think I could do what I do without Point of View on a daily basis. Without ministries like Point of View, we really don't have much hope for the future of our children, our grandchildren. They just really help on a daily basis protect the freedoms that we enjoy today. I can't see a better way to invest in our future than to support Point of View.
Y'all's program is wonderful, and enjoy it every day. I learn so much every time I listen to it. Not only that, I want to encourage everybody listening to donate, because without our donations, I know that y'all won't be able to stay on the air, and it's just, I don't know where we get this kind of information if it wasn't from y'all.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. Kerby, in the last bit, we just heard from some listeners, investing in the future. Well, the future is now is our theme for this event. Investing in the future. Hope for the children. We protect freedoms. They learn a lot.
Yes.
They didn't know before. So that's just a little sampling of what Point of View means in the lives of our friends. Thank you for calling. Thank you for giving. But don't stop. If you haven't yet gotten in and joined the Truth Team, or you want to supersize your gift with another gift, as somebody did just a little bit ago, give us a call, won't you, at 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. And every dollar you give right now, up to $9,400, will be doubled.
That's great.
Even the big gifts.
Even the big gifts.
Yep, right.
And let me just mention that we are encouraging you to pay it forward. And for just a minute, I'd like to maybe talk about something that happened in the past, because it gives you an idea of what you can be doing in the future.
Okay.
And that is, Michelle Bachman has been a friend of this ministry for a long time, and she first started listening to Point of View back when she was 19 years of age.
I was about 19 years old when I first met my husband, and he brought me out to the farm in Wisconsin where he lived with his parents. And every day at noontime, the radio came on, and my in-laws had the radio tuned to the Christian radio station, and it was Marlon Maddox's Point of View that came on. So I was still getting my footing for my faith. And this was very important, because what Point of View taught me was the intersection of current events with my faith in Jesus Christ. And I just loved the show. I loved Marlon Maddox's personality. He was cutting edge. All the new things that you'd hear about in the news, he would be talking about on the radio station, but from a biblical worldview perspective. He very profoundly shaped a lot of my thinking during that time, and we couldn't wait to listen to it. Kerby does such a fabulous job. I've enjoyed being on the show with Kerby. It's needed now more than ever, because it seems like too few pastors are willing to say from the pulpit what they need to say today. That's why I think that Kerby Anderson, what he's doing on Point of View, is probably more needed now than ever, because we need to be hearing this on the radio if we aren't going to be getting it from our pulpits.
Again, I've been around long enough to remember when she was listening to the program. Then I remember when Penna Dexter and I interviewed her before she even ran for the legislature.
Oh, my goodness.
This is before she ran for the Minnesota legislature, by the way. And then, of course, she ran for Congress, and then, of course, ran for the presidency. So we've seen individuals who in the past have given to this ministry and had an influence on people like Michelle Bachman. Pay it forward for people in the future.
That's right. Did you know that we are almost 46 years old, and we are the oldest running talk show in the entire world right now? That's Point of View. 46 years nonstop, and as a radio program. So I'm excited about that.
Let's also mention that as you give, we like to send you a thank you gift.
We do.
One of those that we're sending a lot of those out, I'll hold it up right now, is the Bible Stick. This is just a wonderful resource because, again, you can have an opportunity to hear the entire New Testament. Maybe you're not interested. Well, you can pass it on to someone else, but it's an MP3 player. It has music and sound effects, 40 voices. It's not something you can buy in the store.
Nope.
It's something that's available through Point of View. It has the word-for-word translation of the Bible, the New Testament, and that's a resource we want to put in your hands as a thank you.
This thing fits in the palm of your hand, and you know what? It's an incredible way to get God's Word. It's word for word, ESV version, and it can get God's Word into your heart. And it's just the size of a pack of gum, and it's an MP3 player. It's not something that you can load and unload. It's fixed, and that's all that's on there is the New Testament from Faith Comes by Hearing. Thank you for that. And the phone number is 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151. And just remind you of something very important. $9,400 is sitting there waiting to be matched with your gift. No gift too large, no gift too small. Please consider giving and becoming part of the Truth Team at whatever level you choose and God directs. Pointofview.net. Pointofview.net is one way to give. 7 lines open right now, and that phone number to call is
800-347-5151. Lee Strobel's going to join us, so you don't want to miss that. So now's the time to call, so you won't miss the interview with Lee Strobel. 7 lines open, 800-347-5151. Let's get this taken care of. We want to spend some time talking with Lee Strobel, but we need to hear from you first. 800-347-5151 or pointofview.net.
Every dollar doubled.
This is Viewpoints with Kerby Anderson.
The Constitution mandates a survey of Americans every decade, and the Commerce Secretary has discretion over the questions that census takers must ask. In most administrations, that would be the end of it. But Donald Trump is the president, and just about everything that is proposed in his administration is controversial. The Justice Department asked census officials to include a question about citizenship so they can better enforce the Voting Rights Act. Including such a question was so controversial that a number of states have filed suit against the Trump administration. Some commentators have suggested that the liberal overreaction to the question is a good reason why we should push for it. The attorneys generals argue that asking this question might undercount people in blue states and affect congressional representation. Actually, there are lots of places in red states with illegal immigrants. Here are just a few towns where the percentage of undocumented immigrants exceeds 10%. McAllen, Texas, Yuma, Arizona, Gainesville, Georgia. Critics also fear that illegal immigrants will not fill out the U.S. Census forms. That has not been the response with the long-form census that already asked the question about citizenship. On the other hand, it has been a problem getting illegal immigrants to fill out the short form, even with massive outreach programs. Several other countries, from Australia to the United Kingdom, do include a citizenship question on their surveys. The United States used to ask the question on the short form until the 1960s and has continued to ask about citizenship on the long form. The Justice Department said it needs more data for the location of voters for a fair enforcement of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. I think that is reason enough to include the question. I'm Kerby Anderson, and that's my point of view.
For more information about issues covered on Viewpoints, visit pointofview.net. Pointofview.net. Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Hello, I'm O.S. Hawkins, and what a privilege it is to say these few brief words about how much I love Kerby Anderson and how much I respect the ministry of Point of View. You know, in a world we're living in, when their culture is collapsing and crumbling all around us, we see some folks rushing out to condemn the culture. They just maybe beat their Bibles a little harder and yell a little louder, while others compromise the culture and some even condone it. But what I love about Point of View is it confronts our culture every day as Kerby speaks the truth and speaks it in love. So I want to encourage you to support Point of View with your gifts. You know, we should never resist a generous impulse. And as you're listening to Point of View and you get an impulse to support that program and give to that program, the devil wouldn't put that in your heart. God did. So never resist a generous impulse. And join us in supporting a Point of View and thanking God for the gift He's given all of us in Kerby Anderson, who leads with integrity and excellence.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Coming to the end of the fourth day here of Truth Team, but we still have an opportunity in just a minute to talk with our good friend Lee Strobel. But in studio with us, Brad Fisk, and we have this challenge on the table. It is a match challenge, and how are we doing?
We are right at $6,000 remaining to go, and it will have her done. So, but don't sit back and relax. We really don't want to take this right up to the top of the hour. But to make sure that's clear, this whatever money might be left by the end of the hour does not go into our total. It stays outside. So we don't want to do that, okay? We want to give us a call, if you could, with your very best gift at 800-347-5151. That's 800-347-5151. And you can always give online at pointofview.net.
You know, you had a chance to see the movie recently, The Case for Christ, didn't you?
About a week ago, week and a half ago, some friends had it, and they brought it. A neighbor, it was a neighbor down the street, and said, "Have you seen this yet?" I've been wanting to see it, and we did, and it's awesome.
Well, I went into the theater, of course, to watch it, and we've been promoting it quite a bit.
Yes.
And we're going to be promoting The Case for Miracles when it comes out a little bit in the future. But let me just again do the formal introduction to someone who is well known to our listening audience, Lee Strobel, who, of course, serves right now as the professor of Christian thought at Houston Baptist University, hbu.edu. Also, of course, the teaching pastor at Woodlands Church. Of course, we know him for The Case for Christ, but also The Case for the Creator, Case for Grace, and a variety of others, Case for Faith. But, of course, one that we just have been talking about, The Case for Miracles. An individual graduated from the University of Missouri, Yale Law School, was at the Chicago Trib for years, becomes a Christian, has been at Willow Creek and at Saddleback, but, of course, now is at Houston Baptist. And Lee Strobel, thank you so very much for joining us once again here on Point of View.
Well, so glad to be with you. I'm here in Raleigh, North Carolina, doing some speaking for a crisis pregnancy center. I do a lot of pro-life fundraising for those kind of organizations. And so I look forward to doing that tonight, but glad to talk to you.
Well, and again, we've been talking about pro-life issues. We've heard from Jim McKee, for example, is the one that established the one in Dallas. And I was talking about the fact that just down the hall, my wife is taking some of these phone calls from some of our listeners, and she will tell anybody. I probably speak at more Pregnancy Resource Center banquets than anything else, and I know you do as well. But let's, if we can, talk about The Case for Christ, because we've posted an interview that was done with you and your wife. And what a great resource that has become. I do appreciate the fact that Pure Flix put that out, and it was distributed by Lionsgate. How has it been doing? Because I certainly made the point of getting people into the studios, but here Brad had a chance to watch it. Was it on DVD or something like that?
It was a DVD, yeah. So we watched it in the comfort of our own home, and we're very moved by it, sir. Really moved.
How is it doing?
Oh, it's great. Yeah, it's doing great. It's now on Netflix as well, and what we're discovering is a lot of young people, especially, that's how they access movies these days, is through Netflix or similar streaming services. And so we're seeing a huge increase in people seeing it for the first time just recently, getting letters and notes from around the world. It's premiered now in many different countries: South Korea, South Africa, Nigeria, Papua New Guinea, Australia, Spain, France, Brazil, Mexico, all over the world. In fact, one movie theater in Australia was rented out by a local church, and they showed it to the community, and 22 people came to faith right there at the showing.
Wow.
So we're thrilled with the ministry that it's had. I'll tell you one funny story real quickly. There was an atheist who told me he had been watching the film, and I can't remember why he decided to watch it, but he's watching it. And when it comes to the scene where I'm kind of evaluating all of the evidence and trying to reach a verdict in The Case for Christ, he starts shouting at the screen, "Don't you see it? Can't you see all the evidence? What's wrong with you?" And then he realized, oh, wait a minute, what about me?
What about me?
And he came to faith watching the movie.
What a great story.
That's awesome.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah, I love it. I love
it. One of the things we also want to tell people about is, of course, your book, The Case for Miracles. Last time you were in studio. By the way, Brad, Lee was here. Lee Strobel was here. And we look out, and there's, right now, that's full of people answering phones. Right. But out there was all sorts of people watching Lee Strobel, and he said, "Do you always have a crowd?" I said, "Well, we do when you're here, Lee." But we were talking about The Case for Miracles. And not only is that book out, but you also, of course, had a webcast, and you have a movie coming out.
Yes.
Tell us more.
That's right. The same people who did the Case for Christ movie, we're doing a new movie called The Case for Miracles. It flash forwards about 20 years from the original film. We have the same screenwriter, Brian Bird, the same director. We're hoping to get some of the same cast back as well. I just spent a couple of weeks ago, about a week, with Brian Bird working on the script. So we're very excited about that because we think that the title of the Case for Christ movie is kind of in your face. It could be a little hard to invite someone who's an adamant non-believer to something titled so in your face, the Case for Christ. Case for Miracles may be a little easier to invite people to, because even people who are quote unquote spiritual but not Christian may be open to hearing about miracles. And of course, the gospel is going to be in the film, and so we're excited about it. I think it'll be a good way to share the gospel in a fresh manner.
Well, again, it's also an opportunity to have people realize that you have some people that say, well, that was a miracle, but I can't validate this. But you have a couple that are in the book, and some that you've talked about in your webcast, and some that are going to be in the movie that are unassailable, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, we're going to say at the beginning of the movie, the miracles in this movie are true. And we're going to have a website where people can go to for the documentation, the medical evidence, and so forth. Because some of these are so, as you say, they're so astounding that we're a little bit afraid we put them on the screen. People will think we're making it up. I'm thinking of Barbara Snyder, who was on her deathbed from multiple sclerosis.
That's the one I was thinking of.
Was curled up like a pretzel, hadn't walked in 7 years, and her one lung collapsed, the other lung half collapsed, tube in her throat, tube in her stomach so she could eat, blind, legally blind. And God told her to get up and walk after 450 Christians began praying for her. And she jumped out of bed, took the tube out of her throat, and was completely and instantaneously healed to the point where her muscles came back to her calves so she could walk. And, the doctor said, this is medically impossible. Another doctor said, this is truly a miracle. And 2 doctors have written books about it. It was so astounding. And the documentation from the Mayo Clinic and elsewhere is just unassailable. And the eyewitnesses are just stellar. They have no reason to deceive. And so it's I spent a lot of time with Barbara, and she's such a sweet woman. And this happened over 30 years ago, and she's still healthier than I am, And
that's awesome. That is so cool.
But when she talks about the miracle all these years later, she's just sense of wonder and joy in her voice that just is amazing. So we got stories like that are well documented and really point toward God still being involved in our world today.
Sure. We need to remind people that as we go to a break right now, we still have to meet that match. And if you enjoy the conversation with Lee Strobel, now's the time so that you don't miss anything to make that phone call.
It's a $6,000 match still on the table, so we're really dependent on you, as we always are. We're a listener-supported ministry. 6 callers, 6 phone people are available to take your call right now. 800-347-5151. That's toll free. 800-347-5151. 5151, and Lee's going to hang around for the next
break. That's right.
Week.
We're going to talk about evangelism. We're going to talk about apologetics, and so those are some topics we always address here on
And I have a surprise that you don't know about for next segment.
That's okay. I can't wait for the surprise. But I do want to encourage you to call right now. You don't want to miss any of the conversation with Lee Strobel, so it's going to be a break that you can use right now to make that call. So do so. 800-347-5151. We need to get this cleared up, so help us out. 800-347-5151. Every donation matched.
Lori Taylor heard Kerby talk about sexually graphic books in schools. She thought it couldn't possibly be as bad as he said until she looked for herself.
I could not read the first sentence on here without getting a fine from the FCC.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Lori went to her school to ask if her 12-year-old daughter had seen any of the worst books.
They said, we can't do that. And I said, excuse me? And they said, that violates her privacy. And I said, she doesn't have any privacy. She's 12. And they said, that breaks the law. And I said, you're kidding me. And they said, no, and if you persist, we will call the authorities.
At that moment, Lori withdrew, but like General MacArthur, she returned and won major battles affecting children in her community and beyond. That is the kind of difference you make when you join the Truth Team. So many victories that we fought and prayed for appear to be within reach. The future is now. When you call 800-347-5151 or take a moment and visit pointofview.net/team. Together, we can finally achieve real and lasting change. 800-347-5151 and pointofview.net/team. Point of View will continue after this.
You are listening to Point of View. The opinions expressed on Point of View do not necessarily reflect the views of the management or staff of this station. And now, here again is Kerby Anderson.
Lee Strobel with us for a few more minutes, and in studio with us, Brad Fisk. But, Brad, we need to remind our listeners we are certainly having a great conversation with Lee Strobel, but we also only have a few minutes left to meet this matching fund challenge.
We have 25 minutes. And we need to raise $5,835 to be able to get the $15,000 match into our total. So please don't delay. I know you want to listen to Lee, but you make a quick call or go online to pointofview.net and make that donation. 800-347 5151.
Working real hard to reach the top of that mountain, and each piece and each step gets us there. So, again, your comments are certainly well appreciated, and we would appreciate you to maybe even share that with those individuals that are answering the phones. But most importantly, we just need you to make that call, 800-347-5151. Or, as Brad pointed out, you can be listening to this and just simply go online to pointofview.net.
That's
and
right.
You'll see some of those thank you gifts we make available to you as well. Lee, one of the things that we talk about with you from time to time is, of course, apologetics. Matter of fact, Point of View is really about helping you articulate a biblical worldview as well as know how to defend a biblical worldview. But talk about the relationship between evangelism and apologetics, because that's certainly been something we've talked to you about. And it's important to recognize that as we share the gospel, sometimes people have objections or questions, and we need to be able to answer those, because after all, the heart cannot accept what the mind rejects. So what's the relationship between evangelism and apologetics?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, because I think it's often misunderstood. But before I answer that, I just, as you know, I'm such a huge fan of what you do with your ministry. And, I'm excited about this fundraising opportunity. I want you to put me down for $1,000 toward that goal this half hour. Because I want to be part of what you guys are doing and encourage you and help support getting out the gospel and getting out good answers to tough questions that people have about the faith. So thank you for what you're doing, and I'm proud to get behind you and be one of your donors. And in terms of your question, I see evangelism in the 21st century being spelled apologetics. In other words, I think that we live in a culture that's increasingly hostile, increasingly skeptical toward faith. And so whenever we try to share the gospel, we often will get objections or questions that people raise authentically and legitimately. And we need, as 1 Peter 3:15 says, to be prepared to give an answer and to give it gently and respectfully. And I think, in the 21st century, that's ever more important. And so, my goal in talking to people about Jesus is not to win an argument, it's to win a soul. And so my goal is to win them to Christ. But I often use apologetics. And some people refer to me as an apologist, and I usually correct them and say, actually, I'm an evangelist who uses apologetics. Because sometimes, I want to, what I picture it like when I grew up in Chicago, and there's always road construction going on, and they would have these little construction barriers along the road, and I picture apologetics as something that kind of knocks down those barriers between people and God. That they have these objections, these questions, these hesitations, things they've read in the internet or picked up along the way that make them doubt. And what apologetics does, it knocks down those issues so that they can make progress toward the cross.
I was just thinking, too, that in some respects, our 21st century world is more like the first century. It was so essential in the first century to talk about the resurrection and clear up misconceptions people have in that world. It's true as well. And in the book of Acts, you see, when Paul is in Acts 13 in the synagogue, he can really assume that almost everybody there essentially believes the Old Testament, believes in the coming Messiah, believes in the authority of Bible, all those kinds of things. By the time he's in Acts 17, he's in front of Stoic and Epicurean philosophers. They don't believe any of that. And our world used to be a lot more of an Acts 13 world. Now it's more of an Acts 17 world. So if apologetics were important in the past, it's really important today, don't you think?
I think that's very well put. When I share Jesus, it's almost inevitable that I'm going to get some sort of question or objection in return. And that's okay. That's all right. Let's clear that up. Let's get an answer. Let's provide an answer that knocks down that barrier so that they can come face to face with Jesus and make an authentic, heartfelt decision for him. Often these days in our culture, we have people who have been raised on the internet where there's all kinds of crazy stuff about Christianity and about Jesus that you just want to shake your head at and say, where in the world did this come from? But people see it on the internet. They think it's true, and it points them in the wrong direction. And if we can kind of turn them around, point them toward the cross, get them past those objections, you can see people who will make progress and often come to faith as a result.
Brad here for a quick minute. Listen, about 20 minutes ago, I was handed a call slip from the call center. Douglas from New Mexico checked in with his gift. Here's his comment. Listened for a long time. I was saved during the Marlon Maddox years by Point of View's ministry. I just thought that just happened 20 minutes ago, so I don't think that was a coincidence. I think God put that together because we really do not we're not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ, and Point of View has a phenomenal way to meld the world's issues and the worldview with evangelism and with the gospel. That's why we're so excited to have you on, because I know you agree with us.
Well, we've got our heart beats for the same thing, which is to see the culture lovingly confronted with the truth about Jesus. It's to see people come to faith. It's, if you've seen the movie about my life, you know that I was living a very narcissistic and immoral and drunken life. And what's the answer to that? Is the answer some sort of rehab? Well, I think the ultimate answer is Jesus Christ, and who changed my values, my morality, my character, my attitudes, my relationships, my marriage. And, God rescued our family. And now Leslie and I have been married for 45 years. And our little granddaughter, Abigail, who's just 12 years old, has already led 5 little children to Christ.
Awesome.
So so God is, rippling down through the generations and will affect people 100 years from now because, I found answers to my questions. I found the evidence for Jesus. It was overwhelming. It was persuasive. It was powerful. And, bending my knee to Jesus was the most important moment of my life and changed my eternity, but also change my mission in this life, which is to tell others this good news that there is hope, there's redemption, there's eternal life through only Jesus Christ.
Amen.
One other thing that we do at Point of View is we really try to partner with individuals, and as well as I do that more than once I've told people to sign up for your course as a professor of Christian thought at Houston Baptist University, or when I've been talking with Jeremiah Johnston or others, I've talked about their courses or talked about taking the online courses. So, again, we've always seen this as a partnership, and one other, I think, benefit of Point of View is whether it was in the first hour here talking with Chuck Bentley and talking about what's available at Crown Financial, whether it's talking to you, Lee, we just, again, recognize that we need to educate our listeners and tell them of all the great resources and programs available to educate them so that we'll be more articulate as a body of Christ in terms of evangelism, apologetics, and Christian worldview, don't you think?
That's such a great attitude. I think we're partners in this together. God's given us a mission to reach the world for him. And we ought not to be squabbling among ourselves. We ought to be encouraging each other, supporting each other, cheering each other on. I do the same thing. I'm constantly tweeting about resources that I come across that I find to be valuable and helpful, letting people know about them. And I think the more we do that and we display the unity that Jesus prayed for among Christians, that's a positive message to the culture that we don't spend our time squabbling with each other. We have this unified message that Jesus is who he claimed to be, the unique Son of God. There is salvation only available through him, but there is hope and there is redemption to those who come to him in repentance and faith.
Well, Lee Strobel, we appreciate the good work that you do, and anytime you can come on the program, we welcome you, and thank you so very much for, I guess I just heard a pledge for $1,000. Thank you.
Which is double to $2,000.
Thank you so very much. Well, Lee, I wish you well at that Pregnancy Resource Center banquet in Raleigh, and we look forward to seeing you in studio or again by phone as soon as we can.
Thank you. God bless you guys.
Okay.
Thank you, Lee.
Brad, help us out. We've only got about a minute before we go to the break here, and we have to finish this off. We're
down at least to $4,835. Okay. That's what needs to come in between now and the top of the hour. One more break coming up. Please, won't you prayerfully consider helping people change lives, helping people perhaps find the gospel of Jesus Christ. It actually is relevant to their life and making a difference for eternity. We are about eternal values here. All about that. Are you? Would you join us? 800-347-5151. 1-800-347-5151. There's 5 lines open right now for you, and there's no waiting ever at pointofview.net. pointofview.net.
I want to hear especially from some of you that believe in evangelism and apologetics.
Yes.
That's one more thing that we do here at Point of View. We have some great programs planned in the future for that. So you can help us do that. 800-347-5151. 1-800-347-5151. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the First Liberty Briefing. I'm Jeremy Dice. At this point, it's an all-too-familiar story. A same-sex couple asks a religious baker to custom-create a wedding cake. Despite apologetically declining the business, the baker is sued and the bakery is forced to close. But this is not that story. Not yet, anyway. Kathy Miller is the religious baker, and her bakery, called Tasteries, is located in Bakersfield, California. She was forced to decline some business when that client would have required her to use her creative expression to lend support to a union that violates her religious convictions. The couple filed a complaint, and the state of California filed suit against Kathy. But Judge David Lamp concluded that the state has an obligation to protect free speech for everyone, including Kathy. The court reasoned that while everyone should be able to purchase ready-made goods regardless of what the customer plans to do with the goods, custom art is different. Or, as the ACLU says, freedom of expression for ourselves requires freedom of expression for others. You see, the true test of whether we actually believe in the promise of the First Amendment is speech we find socially controversial. Popular ideas are not in great danger of being suppressed or silenced. The true test of our commitment to freedom is if we welcome that disagreement and live peaceably as neighbors anyway. To learn how First Liberty is protecting religious liberty for all Americans, visit firstliberty.org.
Students and teachers are being told that prayer, Bibles, and religion are illegal in public school, but that's not true. Learn the facts. Read your free Religious Liberty Protection Kit for students and teachers at firstliberty.org right now. Don't let anyone steal your freedom with bad information. Get your Religious Liberty Protection Kit for students and teachers at firstliberty.org. That's firstliberty.org.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Hi, this is June Hunt from Hope for the Heart. Kerby and his guests are biblically based, and they bring a conservative voice to today's issues. I want to encourage you to honor this ministry with a special financial gift. You can do that at pointofview.net. That's pointofview.net. And Kerby, I thank God for your ministry. You are needed in our world because truth is needed in our hearts.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
Back for the final segment here today as we're winding down the fourth day of our Truth Team Week, but we do still need your financial support. We need your pledge, and any gift is available to you to give on 800-347-5151. No gift is too small, no gift is too large, and you don't have to have all the money right now. We're looking for your pledges, and we have a number of people, actually 6 different individuals standing by the phones waiting for your phone call.
Well, we had a $15,000 match a couple of hours ago on the table. We're down to $3,355, and the match will be cared for. But we've only got, and this expires in 11 minutes. 11 minutes, $3,355. And I would invite you to especially consider coming in at that $1 a day level. That's Truth Team 360. And that's $1 a day. That's all we're talking about, $1 a day. Step out in faith and see if God would have you do that. And we would love to send you a welcome gift by joining the Truth Team of the Bible Stick. This is from Faith Comes by Hearing. It is the Word of God, the entire New Testament, and it's available to you. It's word for word and with music, with sound effects, dramatized, fits in the palm of your hand, size of a pack of gum. You cannot get this in stores. It's not a retail product. So we're really excited about the Bible Stick, and that's yours for a gift of $1 a day or more. I want to say thanks really to a couple people really fast. Celia, for your add-on gift of $500, already a donor. And thanks to Yolanda, listens at works, loves Kerby, appreciates truth and such integrity, from Leroy. Thank you for that. Listen every day. And it goes on and on and on. Thank you so much for all of your comments, all of your encouragement for the ministry. Again, the number to call is 800-347-5151. Call now.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
I really appreciate what you guys do. I love the program, and it's so refreshing to have this type of ministry on the air. And you know, you pray that others would tune in and really get educated from a spiritual perspective about a biblical worldview. I mean, I really appreciate it.
You guys do an amazing job. You guys always are very encouraging, and no matter what, I just wanted to thank you guys.
I just wanted to commend you for the excellent guests that you've had on your program. I think all Americans need to hear these things, and I hear you say that only 1% of listeners support your program, and I just want to encourage people out there. They need to support your program because our country needs to hear these messages.
I just want to say that I love your show. I listen to it every day because I get off just in time enough to hear it, and just keep up the good work.
Just wanted to know how much I appreciate your program. I've been listening to it for several years, and thank you so much for the positions you take. Keep up the good work.
Point of View, Truth Team 360. The future is now.
You make it happen, and as we've said before, pay it forward, because we have already heard some stories of those who have benefited from those of you, perhaps, that have given in the past, or others. Your involvement right now makes a difference.
Let me be so bold real quick to encourage grandmothers, grandfathers, moms, and dads. Listen, you guys, we really do need your help right now financially, because that's where we're looking. We're looking at the next generation. When I look in the face of my grandkids, I'm telling you, it changes the world right there.
Does.
So here's the phone number. Think about that, would you? 1-800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. We have 3 lines open, so you won't get a busy signal. And you can always go to pointofview.net, pointofview.net.
Let's, if we can, hear from Alan West. Colonel Alan West has sat in this chair before and been a co-host and a guest host, and he had some things to say to you about your involvement with Point of View.
Hey, greetings, everyone. This Lieutenant Colonel retired Alan West, former member of the 112th Congress. I just want to take a few moments to tell you why it's so important that you support Kerby and what he's doing here with Point of View Ministries and all the great people they have here on this team. This is truly an intersection of the culture. It is truly a place where you can have that open discussion about the politics, your faith, and all the things that are affecting our country with the current issues. But it is always from a biblical perspective. And I think that's what makes Point of View Ministries, Point of View Radio, and what Kerby brings in his analysis and his assessment so very important. When I look at what is happening in the United States of America right now, it is truly not about a political party discussion. It is an ideological discussion. And Christians need to understand that we have a responsibility in this constitutional republic to stand for righteous governance and righteous government. And it's so important that we come to realize that separation of church and state cannot continue to mean separation of our Judeo-Christian faith heritage from the foundational fabric of the United States of America. But it has to mean that we should not be allowing government to dictate to us, to relegate our very first of our First Amendment rights, which is the freedom of religion and the free exercise thereof, subjugated to the whims and the desires of a secular government. So it's so important that we do render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. It's so important that, as it says in 1 Peter, that we do respect the government. We do respect and honor the king with a little k. But we also need to make sure that that person that has been ordained by our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, by our God, who gives us those inalienable rights of life lived in pursuit of happiness, respects our faith, respects our belief, and we have that governance. We have that system of laws and the rule of law that respects the foundation of these great United States of America, which is the Judeo-Christian faith heritage and the Constitution. So please continue to support Point of View Ministries, Point of View Radio. Continue to keep Kerby busy. And so that sometimes maybe when Kerby is really busy, he has to leave, they'll invite me in and let me host the show every now and then. But don't tell them, because then maybe they won't allow me to host it as much as maybe they want me to. But still, what a great ministry, what a great man, what a great team that you have here at Point of View Ministries and Point of View Radio. So make sure that you support them.
Alan West has sat in this chair and looks forward to the next opportunity, sounds like, to be in this chair.
That's right.
Okay, we are down to the last minute or so. So, Brad, help us out here. We started with a $15,000 match, and we're down to a few dollars.
We are somewhat south of $3,000. Not sure how much, but listen, don't stop now. Please give us a call.
We need to hear from
That's
you.
right, because whatever money's left over goes off the table in 4 minutes. 800-347-5151. 800-347-5151. Again, if you get a busy signal, I don't think you will. I think some phones just opened up. You can also give at pointofview.net.
And again, as we just mentioned a minute ago, we're going off the air. We'll still take a few more phone calls, but let me just say a couple of things. First of all, of course, you can call for a few more minutes, 800-347-5151. We'll take those calls. But, of course, 24/7 you can give online. And even before we started the show, I think we had one person that actually made a gift. So recognize that, mark down pointofview.net and hit that button, join it now, and you can see the different thank you gifts, welcome gifts that we provide, the Bible stick and the booklets and the Amazon Echo Dot. You can find out more about that at each giving level. But we just really do need to hear from you. It took a long time to work our way down to the level we are right now. It's going to take a few more phone calls to finish this off, and we do need to finish this off.
And here's the phone number again, 800-347-5151, 800-347-5151. Great show today. Thank you, Kerby.
Yes, thank you very much. We, of course, have our weekend edition tomorrow, but don't stop calling, 800-347-5151. Every dollar matched. We will be back here tomorrow.
Her name is Jennifer. Like many women, she was concerned about the country's direction, and she hoped things would change. One day, as she listened to the radio walking through her neighborhood, she happened across Point of View. There was something different about it, something hopeful. She began taking simple steps on things she was hearing. She shared what she heard with others. Her confidence was growing. She was just one woman, but Jennifer now sensed a purpose. Next, it was time to hit the road. She visited her state capital. She stood up for other believers whose rights were being trampled. Jennifer made a difference. But she never would have done anything without Point of View. She never would have started without someone like you taking one significant step to join the Truth Team. Call 800-347-5151 or visit pointofview.net/team. Together, we can achieve real and lasting change. But you have to take that first step and join the Truth Team. Won't you do it today, right now? 800-347-5151 and pointofview.net/team. Point of View is produced by Point of View Ministries.